had before, so I know it's lethal.
What?
These,
They are.
they're lethal.
You want to have bread or a cracker next to you when you go.
Liz, are you
I am. Are you ready for me?
we will be in a second. Perfect. Welcome everybody to City Council. Today is February 17th, Tuesday, and we're going to start out with an invocation by Councilmember Rice, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Rodella.
Our kind eternal Heavenly Father, we're grateful for our many blessings. We're grateful for our homes, food, clothing, and the many wonderful things we enjoy. We're grateful for this nation and for the Constitution of the United States. We are grateful to live in a country that is free. We ask at this time, Father, for special blessings. Please bless this council with wisdom of choice. Please fill our aquifers with water. Please give us moisture, specifically snow. We're grateful again for all that we have and recognize thy hand in all things, and we say these things, Father, in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect. And just as a reminder, Highland City is committed to civility and respect. All are asked to act and speak accordingly. So just something we like to remind ourselves at the first of each meeting. First item on our agenda is unscheduled public appearances. So this is your opportunity. If you have anything you would like to say to the council, now is the chance. We do have a couple of public hearings on our agenda. So we have a couple of text amendments, so there will be public hearings associated with those. But if you have comments about anything else, now would be the time to do that. So we've got two, it looks like, comment cards that I have, so we'll start out with those, and then we'll move on if there's anybody else who would like to speak. So the first one is Taylor, and then after that, Alexandra. Or if you would prefer a different order, feel free. Go ahead and give your name for the record.
Do I need to push the button again?
Yes, please. If it's yellow, green.
It's green now.
Thank you.
Alexandra Grunwald. Good evening. I'm here again. As many of you have probably guessed, I'm here once again to speak about our Little West section of Canal Boulevard. I just wanted to make a quick comment before I make my rest of my comment that in our neighborhood kind of chat about this, a lot of my fellow neighbors have said, it's not even worth the try, I've been trying for so many years, and that makes me sad that they feel like they've tried so many times and their voice hasn't been heard, and they're so frustrated that they're just gonna give up. Luckily for them, I'm a stay-at-home mom with 4, almost 5 small children, and my children's safety kind of makes me into a mama bear. I met with Chris Trusty this past week, and we had a productive discussion about options to make pedestrian crossings safer in our area. It was encouraging, and I really appreciated his willingness to listen to us. Tonight, as you discuss and hear about traffic calming ideas on 9600 North, I urge you to also keep in mind our small section of Canal Boulevard. I completely agree that 9600 needs attention. It's a road many, many children use to walk to and from school and friends' houses, and safety improvements are long overdue for that. I understand also that one of the goals of setting Canal Boulevard speed limit to 30 miles an hour was to shift some of the traffic our way. While much of Canal has a less residential feel, our short stretch from Mitchell Hollow Trail, where that proposed trail is, to 6000 West is a residential neighborhood with families, children, and grandchildren who want to enjoy the safe, family-friendly lifestyle that Highland offers. These families utilize the intersection of 6180 West daily, often multiple times. These decisions to connect the road and to increase the speed limit were both made against many residents' requests. While it may have been for the greater good of everyone, this change has made our section unsafe for pedestrians, especially small children. I ask you to please drive through our small stretch with fresh eyes as if you lived there or your children or grandchildren lived there. The rest of Canal Boulevard has received attention and improvements, but our section is different. The data doesn't fully convey what goes on our little stretch. I know my repeated appearances might feel repetitive and annoying, but this stretch of road, specifically this one intersection, poses a safety risk to my children and others in the community, and it's not something I can ignore. I'm looking forward to hearing what is presented on 9600 North tonight. I'll be doing that virtually because I have some other kids' things I need to rush off to. But we want to partner with you and work with you to find something that works for us who live there and also the people who use that road. We understand we live there, but other people utilize it. So we want to come up with something that works for everyone, not just what we want, because it would be very extensive and different. Anyway, I just want to thank you for your time and commitment to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, and just from me, never repetitive nor annoying, but appreciated. So thank you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Taylor Cutler, and I love living in Highlands, so thank you so much for all the work you've done and are doing. I am just here to add a second voice to everything that Alex just said. I live in her neighborhood. I'm on that group chat. I can attest to everything she said is accurate. I also cross that street with my young kids, and it's terrifying. I know there's some disagreement on is there speeding, is there not speeding, but I think another issue is the sun sets right along that road, and I know you can't change the position of the sun, but I think visibility is also a concern. I know that cars aren't seeing me when they're coming a certain way, and so a safe pedestrian crossing would be a huge help on that area, and I just want to second everything that she said. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, please.
I hadn't planned on speaking and I didn't fill out a card. I
Could you,
apologize.
that's okay. Could you just give us your name, please?
My name is Sam Eggleston.
Thank you.
I've been a property owner in Highland for in excess of 20 years. So I've watched her grow up. And I moved in permanently myself in 2020. I understand Canal Boulevard. I've watched it develop and to where it's at now. And I appreciate the attention that it gets. What my concern is 10400, excuse me, 10400, which is where I live. And I've watched that street become more and more busy as the city has grown and continues to grow. There are 7 new homes being built adjacent to my home just across the street. And there are a lot of other properties being developed. I live down the street from the Buellers, who are not part of the city, and maintain their canal, their irrigation rights. Unfortunately, I'm beyond that, and so I have an unused irrigation ditch because everyone else has gone to pressurized irrigation. And it's a hazard. Cars have ended up in that ditch. Cars have hit my mailbox on multiple occasions, which is not anywhere near the road, but to get around trucks that pull into the property next to mine. They go into the unpaved area and have hit my brick mailbox, which I share with my neighbor. So there are 2 schools, there are 2 large parks on 10400. There are children walking in the front of my property every day to school or to the parks, and I think some attention should be given to their safety on that street, which continues to get busier and busier the longer I've been here. So I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Anybody else? No other comments? Okay, we can move on to our presentation. So first off, we have North Point Special Service District update.
Thank you. I'm Neil Schwendeman with North Point Solid Waste. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy meeting to let me come and talk trash with you. That never gets old. Never. unless you ask my wife. Just a couple things here, just a reminder of some info for North Point. In '93, the current transfer station opened and the landfill right there in Linden closed. In 2006, we switched from rail transport to truck transport. Originally, the waste was delivered to Wasatch Regional Landfill in Tooele County. Well, at that time, that's where it was being delivered. Before that, it was being railed to ECDC in Carbon County. In 2012, the district purchased the Cedar Valley Construction and Demolition Landfill in Fairfield. In 2014, the district joined New Era, the Northern Utah Environmental Resource Agency, and I'll talk a little bit about why that's important a little bit later. But New Era provides the district the rights to dispose of waste in the Bayview landfill, which is located in Alberta, and the district with the ability, being part of New Era, the district has the ability to help control disposal rates. So just a map here. Originally, down in the bottom right-hand corner is where the trash was being railed to in ECDC landfill. When the rail became unreliable, it went to Wasatch Regional up there in the upper left-hand corner. You can see right there, just on the northeast side of Utah Lake is the transfer station. And then Bayview landfill is down there on the southwest side of the lake, and then our construction demolition landfill out there on the west. So some of the services and operations that we have, the municipal solid waste, or we call MSW, consists of our residential curbside collection from all the cities, member cities. Commercial front loads, so your 2, 4, and 8 yard dumpsters. Roll off would be those big 30, 40 yard dumpsters, usually for construction sites. And then we have small commercial and public self-haul that come into the transfer station. And then our C&D, our construction demolition waste, mostly commercial roll-off, small commercial and public self-haul as well. And then green waste, that consists mostly of small commercial and public self-haul. We have an agreement with a contractor that comes in, grinds it up, composts it, and then he brings some of it back up to us to sell to residents. We also have clean concrete. We have an agreement with a contractor to crush it into road base and drain rock, so it's a way that we can recycle concrete that doesn't have rebar in it. We collect household hazardous waste from residents in the county, allow them to drop off that material such as paints, chemicals, cleaners, batteries, etc. And then we also do recycling of tires, metals, electronics. And recently we started stockpiling all the soils that come in, and we're going to screen it and see if we can make them topsoil that we can sell. So just some tons. This is the total transfer station tons of municipal solid waste. You can see our numbers have dipped down a little bit. Our highest number was in 2020 with COVID. Some of that is just a little bit of competition and just economy. Our C&D has continually climbed over the years. We dipped down a little bit last year. Right now there's a little bit of a lull in construction and demolition. And then our total transfer station tons, you see, continue to grow over the years. Last year, we were just under what we did in '24 with 329,000 tons of waste going through our transfer station. So a significant amount of waste. And then this is the residential curbside by city. You can see Lehigh and Orem take up the majority of that. And then Highland is over there. At 7% of the commercial curbside waste, the residential curbside waste coming in from the homes, at little over 9,100 tons in '25. This is the 2025 transfer station tons by the different material. So the clean fill, that number has gone up quite significantly because of that dirt at 14,510 tons. Green waste, we take in 11,000 tons. Our minimum fee load, so that's all of your small commercial or mostly residents that are coming in that have a small amount, just pay the minimum fee so we can get them in and out quicker. We did 22,254 tons of those. Commercial MSW at 50,000, curbside, residential curbside waste at 117, and commercial C&D at 146,000 tons. And then this is just the number of vehicles that we deal with at the transfer station. Small loads that are weighed, 21,838 vehicles through the transfer station. Small vehicles that just pay the minimum fee, $42,000. Residential curbside, of course, these are bigger trucks, so we'll have less of them, but $13,500 on that. Roll-offs at $5,400 and front load at $1,600. So you can see the small vehicles that are coming in take up about 50% of our traffic. And then this is the minimum fees broken up by tons. Most of it, 47% is MSW, 38% construction demolition, 14% green waste, and 1% clean fill, which would be the concrete and the soil. And then this is Highland City's curbside tons over the years. You can see in 25 it was the highest year, so it continues to slowly creep up each year with growth in the city. And this is the curbside fee history for member cities. So back in 2010 we were at 29. The last few years we've had to slowly bump that up. 24 is at 36. We bumped it up $1.50. In July of this year, we're anticipating it going up another $1 because of increases at the Bayview landfill. We did a financial study, and it shows that we need to slowly bring those rates up.
So can I just say, so
Yeah.
curbside fees, that's your tipping fees. That's what we owe. Oh, here they are.
Yeah,
Never
your
mind. Okay.
tipping fees at the transfer station, and the curbside one is specifically what the city's paying for the waste coming in. And then this is what we have to pay. So part of that fee, $11.50, it's going to go up to $12.50 at Bayview. But you can see this is Utah landfills, what it costs to dump in Utah landfills. So Iron County is our next closest at $22. It goes all the way up to $46 a ton, tipping at a landfill where they're going to just push it and bury it right there. At a transfer station, we have to handle that garbage, putting it into semi-trucks, pay for the transport to the landfill, and then pay the disposal fee at the landfill. So you can see, as I mentioned, being part of New Era, we're able to keep our costs down, and we've done really well over the years. It started at $10.50 back in 2016. We haven't raised the fees except for $1 last year, and we're going to do another $1 in July of 26. We're trying to be on the same schedule as the city, so that way you can budget for it and be prepared for it as well. This is the national average for landfills. You can see Utah, the average is about $36.90 a ton. The Northeast up to $84.44 a ton. You can see we have great rates here in Utah. And then this is the comparative rates at transfer stations in Utah. South Utah Valley, which is, down in Spanish Fork, they have a brand new facility there. They just recently bumped their fee up to $46 a ton. And ours is $41.50, but we do give our member cities a $4 break on that tipping fee as well. So I know South Utah Valley doesn't do that for their member cities. They're just straight across $46 a ton, and then it goes all the way up to $51. So we still have some very good rates for those coming to the transfer station. What is our future? Since 2021, the district has been looking at options to update and upgrade our transfer station. Some of those options we looked at is expanding our current buildings. Unfortunately, our current buildings have some footings and foundations that won't allow us to expand on them. We'd have to tear them down and build new. We have 40 acres north of the animal shelter that we looked at siting a new transfer station on, or finding some additional sites on the west side of the lake to add a second transfer station, or building a new station on the current site. And so right now we're moving forward with building a new building on the current site, which is right here. So you can see I don't know if you'll be able to see, but down here kind of towards the bottom it says Future Waste Diversion Building. That is our current commercial building where the large trucks come in and dump, and we have a tunnel through there. And then the spot where it says Future C&D area, that's where most of our small MSW and public go into that building. Where the big building is up on the kind of the left side there, that's the future 70,000 square foot transfer station building that's where our current construction and demolition waste is. It's outside. We temporarily move that up on top of the old landfill. while we were able to construct that to keep traffic and keep our services flowing without having interruption, trying to do a live campus rebuild. We would improve our entrance on the east side where the office building is. There's an old scale house there. We're looking at putting in some 2 automated inbound scales and 1 automated outbound, and that would be during the week, just a commercial only. They come in, they have an RFID card, it reads it, they weigh, boom, they're in and out really quick, and we keep the current up on that upper left-hand side where our current scale house is. We'd keep that for public, and we'd update those scales with some more automated scales as well. So excited about that. We're just in the design phases of that right now. So we'll have more information on that coming in the future. So this next one was just kind of the phasing plan. First, we would work on improving that old scale house to where we could keep traffic flowing through. And the orange there would be blocked off so we could construct that new building. And then the last phase would be bringing the construction demolition back down. That building that's the worst one is that residential building. We tear that down and use that concrete and the elevation we have there to use as our future C&D area. Any questions?
Let's go ahead and start with Councilmember Campbell. Do you have questions?
Yes, a couple of them. The term tipping fee, is that an acronym, or how? I'm trying to find it on ChatGPT, and it's telling me that it's a pretty standard term. How did that come about?
My assumption is it's just based on a truck coming in, tipping its bed up, dumping the waste, and driving off. So
Okay, that totally makes sense. Obviously, I'm thinking of tipping a restaurant, you know.
So in the transfer station where they dump the waste, we call that the tipping floor. At a landfill, we dump at the
That
working
totally
place.
makes sense. You're better than ChatGPT, by the way.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
His highest
The other
compliment.
question is, I'm getting a lot of pressure, I guess is the right word, from an organization, Coalition Against Bigger Trucks. Apparently there's legislation that wants to put bigger trucks on the road, allow more tonnage per truck. How would that impact your operations? Would it allow for fewer trips? Is that something, do you know what this coalition is about? Have you heard
I'm
about
not
it?
familiar with that legislation.
Or the legislation that's before the legislature now?
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
Okay.
Obviously, the more we can put on a truck, the more we can haul. Right now, our contractor that runs the semis have 53-foot trailers, and we can go up to about 30 tons of waste in there. At certain times of year, usually in the winter time, the waste is a little bit lighter. Sometimes it's hard to even meet the weight.
So can you pull 2 trailers, 2 53-footers?
No.
That's not possible, or it's not allowed?
No, you can only do Rocky Mountain doubles, so it's like a 40-footer and then like a 30-footer or something like that. Doubles, because once you get off of the freeway and you're on 2-lane roads in Utah, that you can't have 2 40-foot doubles.
So how many trips a day are you making out to that? It looked like a long way away.
Yeah, we're making, right now, well, year-round, it's somewhere between 16 and 25 trucks a day.
A day, okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Rice, do you have any questions?
When you mentioned topsoil, so is it like reclamated topsoil, or is it just, explain to me where you're getting it from and what you're doing, and can citizens go buy that, or, and maybe I'm off track, but
We haven't screened any yet, so people will bring in loads of soil. A lot of time it has sod with it if they're digging up stuff at their house, maybe digging for a pool. As long as it's not contaminated soil, we'll take it in, and right now we've just been piling it up. It used to go in with our construction demolition waste and just be hauled to the landfill. But I'm like, why am I paying for this soil that we could hopefully use? And so we'll screen out some of the rocks and the sod and stuff like that. We're gonna rent a screener this month and see what products we can get from that, so.
I know we used to be able to buy some mulch.
Yes.
I don't you
That's
do
still
that?
available.
That's still available?
Yep.
Okay. That's,
Councilmember Odella?
I have no questions for you, just thank you for taking care of our trash.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Smith?
So I serve on the governing board, and I just wanted to thank Neil. I think you're a great supervisor and does a fine job. Just a couple comments. The Special Service District was created before there was, I think, 3 or 4 cities that joined later on. And so we're actually appointed through the county commission. Highland's one of them, Saratoga Springs, I believe, and Cedar Hills for sure. There may be a fourth one.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4. I can't remember all of them.
But my concern is my name's been put forward to the county commission. I haven't heard a thing. So I just, if you can kind of put a bug in somebody's ear.
Okay, I'll reach out to
I
Ezra Nair.
keep bringing it up, and I sit by Commissioner Gordon, so I need to be formally sworn in to that board to continue to participate. So last year in May, we took a tour down to Bayview. It's an amazing landfill, and I learned a lot of stuff I thought was pretty fascinating. So what I thought was interesting is the whole landfill in the different pods is all lined, so that the trash and everything and stuff doesn't poison the groundwater and different things. It's kind of really interesting. But I want you to talk just a minute about the seagull problem down there, because I think that's a really interesting thing.
Yeah, so seagulls like the trash. Growing up on a farm, I know seagulls liked the equipment. Whenever we'd go out and cut the hay, all of a sudden we'd have a flock of seagulls above us. But the seagulls have really loved Bayview Landfill. They've really loved to nest at Bayview Landfill. And our landfill manager called up some falconers to say, hey, we have a seagull problem. And he's like, well, how many do you think we have? How many do you think you have? And he's like, oh, I don't know, maybe 30, 40,000. He's like, you're probably guessing high. And then he came out and said, no, you were way low. It's more like 300,000 seagulls. Yes. And just crazy. So we've spent a lot of money with some falconers that come out with different falcons, and especially during nesting season, and chase them off and try to keep them off the landfill. We have some little guns that shoot out like M80s or these whistlers to scare them off the trash. It's really quite fascinating. The only problem has been that since we've chased them off of Bayview, and this is going to be a continual thing that we have to do in the spring and the fall to keep them off, they've gone to Intermountain Regional Landfill, which is just a little bit southeast of our construction demolition landfill out in Fairfield. And there is a air park right next to our landfill. And so the seagulls have kind of migrated to IRL, and now IRL has a falconer, and when the falconer is there, then the seagulls come over to the C&D landfill, which they usually don't because there's no food. It's construction and demolition waste. There's no food there. But they're familiar with the sounds, so they fly over there, and so we're looking at ways to move them. I'm going to work with IRL to jointly push the seagulls off of both properties at the same time.
So it's a problem for the airport now, which is kind of a challenge, especially that. One other just comment. I thought it was fascinating when I went down there, and I brought this up before, but throughout the landfill, as they put all these little pipes to collect methane gas, which is produced by the garbage as it decomposes. And so what happens to that methane gas, and how does that help save us some money?
Yeah, so as Council Member Scott mentioned, we put in horizontal pipes, but we also drilled in vertical, they're called wells, a horizontal well and a vertical well. And the pipe is perforated, and then there's gravel put around it. There's bentonite plugs at the top and bottom so the gas doesn't seep out around the pipes. And then there's a whole network of pipes, a header system that goes all the way back to what's called a flare station that has motors that are running a fan that's putting a suction on the landfill. And those have to be monitored. Each well head has to be monitored for temperature, percent oxygen, and all that stuff. If we put too much of a pull on the gas, it could actually suck oxygen into the landfill and create a subsurface fire. So it's very technical. We have to be very careful with it. But we have what's called a flare station that's pulling the gas, and there's actually a candlestick flare where we can burn it, and that burns at about 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. But we have a joint partner called Pine Creek who has basically, instead of us burning the gas, they pull the gas from our flare station over to their station. They clean it up, and they send it up out west to tie into the Kearns River gas pipeline. And so currently we're getting royalties from them selling the gas that we're injecting into the natural gas pipeline.
So that's kind of recycling. I think it's fascinating, some of that stuff, yeah. The only thing I get worried about is all the lithium batteries that keep catching on fire.
Yes. If anybody asks you what do you do with lithium-ion batteries, they can bring them to the transfer station. We just need to know about them. If we know about them, we can handle them. We can dispose of them properly. Lithium-ion batteries, if you've ever seen anybody put pressure to one, they will react, and they can explode and catch things on fire, and they get very hot. In, I think it was May or June of 24, we had a lot of trash in our building, and there was something that caught fire, and there was something that accelerated that fire, and it melted every single light in that building out of 240 sprinklers. The sprinkler system, they melt when they get to a certain temperature. Out of 240 of them, 220 of them were melted and spraying. So it got hot really fast. So yeah, we prefer to know about lithium-ion batteries so we can control our fires. The nice thing about the new transfer station is they'll have a much better fire system. It'll have a water cannon that can be controlled. It'll have cameras with infrared sensors on them so we can spot hot spots and take care of stuff before it gets out of control. The Linden fire chief, he was ecstatic when we went and met with Linden City to show him the plans for the new transfer station.
Anything else?
That's my comments.
Super interesting.
I thought it was interesting.
Really interesting. Councilmember Courtney, questions?
The only question I have is just if we can get a copy of your deck. There are some of the slides in there that I'd like to take a closer look at.
Yeah, the city already has them. So.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Mayor Bills,
Yes, ma'am.
sorry, excuse me, can I ask one?
Yes.
Back to the seagull problem, not to be facetious, but have we tried just a field full of, like, Mormon crickets? I'm saying that kind of jokingly, but, you know, they'll go where the food is, right?
Right. I don't know if I have been made aware of any vendors that can mass produce them yet. So, yeah, we don't know if that's an option or not.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Yep,
We
thank you.
appreciate it. Rob, I'm super excited about this. I've been waiting all day for Rob's presentations. Did you want to do the new employee introductions first, Aaron?
I think my slide got
Your slide got
dropped.
skipped.
My bad. Maybe I accidentally inserted in the wrong place. So Mayor and Council, we want to do better about just letting you know when we've hired new employees so that if you see them out and about, you can say hello if you would like. So Colton Brems is one of our new streets operators. So our former streets operator vacated the position a while ago. It's taken us a while to find somebody qualified, but he's fantastic. We stole him from Draper City, and he has years of experience, especially in the snow plow up in the good heavens. On the other side of the mountain, not on the other side. Suncrest, thank you. I was like, sunrise is not the right word. Suncrest, which is great because he's going to be our snow plow driver up in Beacon Hills, which might happen this evening or early tomorrow morning. So, and then Magpie Treadwell is our new library assistant. She actually is a grant-funded position for the Highland, the senior activities that they're doing on Friday. So she's a grant-funded position unless we can get some additional funds to continue that program ultimately, but those are our two new hires. And then next slide, we have a couple opening positions still in the city, so we're still trying to hire a city arborist and a staff engineer. And that staff engineer has been a long time. We struggle to hire that one. So would love any recommendations you have, and that's that.
Perfect. Now we're ready, Rob.
So It's everyone's favorite time of the year.
That's
which
what I
is,
said.
The annual Open and Public Meetings Open and Public Meetings Act training. I can't even say it correctly. I'm so excited for this. I handed out my also annual handout that summarizes OPMA, as we call it. As all of you have, I am sure, heard on at several occasions in the past, OPMA is the law enacted by the state that requires our meetings to be open to the public. The biggest question always comes up of, when are we actually meeting? A meeting is one that is called, in this case, by the mayor, and that has a quorum of council members in attendance. So meeting each other on the street, church, at another city council meeting, another city's council meeting, those do not count as meetings because they have not been called. Though sometimes if we know they're coming, we like to just give a heads up. If there's a chance that you may be speaking about city business, we try to do a notice of quorum. The TI Well neighborhood meeting that we held is a good example of, we figured some council members might be in attendance, you might be speaking regarding the public's business. We just gave a general notice of quorum so the public could attend if they were interested. The purpose of having these meetings is, as I kind of summarized at the top there, is that you're always required to take your actions openly and conduct your deliberations openly. It is both the act and the deliberation leading to the act that is required to be open to the public. One of the things that I think sometimes always trips up the public is they think the public meeting is for them. It is not necessarily. It is your meeting. It is for you to discuss. It's not necessarily for the public to participate in the meeting, with some limited exceptions. It is for you to hear and take action on items. So with that, when you conduct your deliberations openly, that means your discussions about these items should generally take place in the meeting. That doesn't mean you can't ask clarifying questions, get information from staff. Obviously, we always provide staff reports, in advance of the meeting for you to review, ask questions about, get your thoughts together on. But the final deliberations as a council for what action the council as a whole will take should be happening publicly. Kind of as corollaries that always come up, electronic messages. Email, there's an exception in OPMA for electronic messages. You're allowed to send emails and texts to each other without it constituting a meeting. I just always caution, don't do that during a meeting about topics you are discussing in the meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss your deliberations openly. If you're texting Kim Rodella during the meeting about something that's on the agenda, it's hard to say you're actually conducting your deliberation openly because the public doesn't have access to that portion of the discussion. So, you send a text to your daughter to have, bring 5 drinks to everyone and to all of staff, that's perfectly acceptable. If you want to talk about having an ice cream thing after the council meeting, great. If you're trying to talk about something on the agenda, just bring it up to the mayor, to the council, and have it be that public. There's a bunch of technical requirements that staff handles, agendas, notices, all of that stuff. Stephanie is amazing and handles all of that for us. As you notice, in our last audit, we didn't have a finding related to OPMA, which is always exciting. And the final thing I wanted to touch on, just the difference, and I mentioned this earlier, the difference between the public meeting and the public hearings. Again, a lot of times the public attends thinking this is their chance to participate. Highland is wonderful about allowing participation. We have those unscheduled public appearances at the beginning of every meeting. We love when residents come and talk to the city. Sometimes if they miss that though, they want to come and speak. That is up to the mayor and council. You do not have to allow that. The only exception to that is public hearings. For example, we have 2 today on text amendments. We'll take comments on those, but outside of a public hearing, it's just a way for the public to watch you do your business. And I think that's all I really wanted to touch on. Any questions regarding OPMA or the requirements or how we should be handling these meetings?
So I just have a question, and this is kind of based on experience I had early in my service on the city council. So one time, 3 of us, 3 council people, came to a planning commission meeting. And there was kind of a kerfluffle about that. Curfew, I don't know how to say the word, but anyhow, if 3 of us decide to come, I mean, we sat on different parts of the room. We really didn't participate in the meeting. We were just interested in what happened. What's the protocol on that? Do we need to notify you, the recorder? Does it need to be published as a joint city council meeting?
If you're, concertedly acting with council members like, hey, we should all attend this meeting to discuss this project, give us the heads up so we can do a notice of quorum. If you all just happen to show up at the regular fourth Tuesday Planning Commission meeting, we don't need any advance notice of that. As a practical matter, kind of more on the planning side of things, and this is advice I'd given to all of the cities I used to represent, is I always prefer for the council, I like when they're in attendance, but not necessarily participating, because I have found the Planning Commission will sometimes defer to the council. And when there's these, applications or text amendments, sometimes it's nice to have the Planning Commission operate and just make their decisions. It's great for you to be in attendance and listen. I just sometimes recommend allowing the commission kind of the freedom to make the decision that they want to make, and then, because it always comes to you to make the final decision anyway. But participating, that's totally fine.
Councilmember Rice, did you have any questions for Rob?
Well, no, I just have always gone to planning commission meeting, I'm a regular and I plan on keeping to be a regular. If not, I'm probably sick at home, but I have been concerned about that, but I will refrain from.
We always like your presence at Planning Commission. I like having someone in the audience.
I've stood up at every meeting since Moses wore short pants, but anyway, I will refrain. Thanks.
Councilmember Rodella, questions?
Nope, I'll just text you later.
How about now? Councilmember Courtney? Oh, Scott, did you have anything else? Other questions?
Oh, I kind of interrupted, didn't I?
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm
I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Old habits are hard to break.
It looks to me like there haven't been any, at least substantive changes since last year. Is that the case?
That is the case.
Yep, Mr. Campbell?
Just amen to the comment. If three of us show up at a planning commission, which is very likely, that we're better not to participate in that meeting, because we do represent a quorum at that point, and there's no public notice that we're going to be there. So that's a good heads up, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
And I do want to caveat, you are still residents of Highland. You're welcome to participate. I just have found, just as a practical matter, sometimes the commission will take action that they think the council wants them to take, which usually that all aligns anyway. So if there is a topic, you do show up, and it's something that you feel strongly about as a Highland resident, feel free to stand up and participate. I just don't want every commission meeting has just become a third council meeting in the month, if that makes sense.
Right. I've actually participated and made comments, but I made it very clear that I did not represent the council. I didn't even represent myself on the council. I'm here as a resident to give you some input, and that's how I spoke. So I think we need to be careful of that.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So isn't there a class we're supposed to take on this? I mean, will you let us know, or something similar to this, or?
This is the required training for the year.
This is the required, okay.
Yes. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to answer them or walk through specific scenarios.
Okay. Thank you.
Stephanie is also a wonderful resource.
Rob, that was so well done.
Thank you, Mayor.
I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you. We're off to consent items 3A, B, and C. Do we have a motion?
Don't you usually ask if somebody wants to pull something?
Yeah, I can ask if we want a motion, or somebody can say that they would instead prefer to pull an item.
I would like to pull the planning commission appointment off the consent item, please.
Okay, pull item 3C. Then we have consent items 3A and 3B, and just a reminder that we have our notes from Councilmember Courtney in front of us as well. So if anybody would like to, yes.
I move to adopt the consent agenda as amended with the amendments to the minutes that were distributed and available to members of the public.
Perfect, and Stephanie has copies of those as well. Are we electronic voting on this?
I'll second it.
So we got a motion by Councilmember Courtney and a second by Councilmember Smith.
For clarification, was that excluding 3C?
Correct, this is for A and B.
Okay.
Look, were you first? Nice. Okay, and that is 5-0. We had a request to pull item 3C, which was our Planning Commission appointment. Let's start with, we'll start with Councilmember Rodella. Do you have any comments on item 3C? We'll just let everybody have a second if they would like to.
Can I say something? Sorry.
Yeah.
Kind of point of order. Wouldn't it be appropriate for the one that pulled it to be first?
So we understand the problem.
So we understand why it was pulled? You want to go last? Oh, well,
Yeah.
never mind.
Would you, I'll let you,
Usually
would
the
you
one
like to
that-
go first or would you like to go last? No.
That's a really hard question. I can do either, Madam Mayor, whichever you prefer.
Let's
So-
go ahead and start with Councilwoman Rodella.
Okay.
I think my only comment is this is for the ratification of Wes Warren for the Planning Commission. And my comment is on this is that I'm excited that he will be willing to serve on Planning Commission. There's nobody better than him who has participated in this many meetings as he has. He has been to more meetings than I have over the course of the year. So Highland City is lucky to have him on Planning Commission.
Councilmember Smith, do you have any comments? Nobody has to comment.
So I just want to say some things. First of all, I really appreciate all the service that Wes has done on various committees and different things. And he's been why am I blanking on the name? Alternate Planning Commission member for a couple years, and I think he's been to every meeting, as far as I know, because we've had some of the commissioners that haven't come on a regular basis. So he's been voting pretty regularly for a couple years. And I've watched those votes, and I think they've been well thought out and appropriate. I appreciate Wes and I are probably on two different ends of the political spectrum, and that's okay. You know, I think it's okay to have different opinions and that we work together. But I think what I appreciate about Wes is, one, he shows up. I think that's an important thing, because Planning Commission sometimes has to deal with a lot of kind of hard things and a lot of citizen input with the changes at the state legislature on land use. And it's kind of not, it's an appointed position, you don't get paid much, you have to do quite a bit of study. I appreciate people that are willing to volunteer and do their work on that, so I really appreciate that. My only comment about Wes is he came to the TI meeting and I didn't recognize him because he looked homeless. He said, my wife said you'd say that, and I was just teasing him. I sat by him for a while and didn't realize who it was, so I'm just teasing. But I'm gonna vote for Wes being on the Planning Commission, because I think he's shown a lot of responsibility, even though I don't agree politically with a lot of things, but I think it's okay if we disagree on different things.
Councilmember Campbell? Doug? Courtney? I don't know people's names sometimes.
I just have one observation and one question. The observation, just because it wasn't listed in the agenda packet, that we did publicize the opening for this in the newsletter, so folks did have a chance to be aware of it and apply for it. And the question is, since we are not appointing, looking at confirming appointments for alternate members, is that because we're at the point where we really have good attendance and we don't feel like we are needing them, or do we just not have candidates?
It's because we don't have the mayor who has interviewed all the candidates yet.
Okay.
And we don't have a lot of applicants. So if there's anybody who's interested, apply. But it was important that we fill this position immediately.
Thank you.
Yep.
I honestly don't know of a resident in Highland that has dedicated more time and commitment to the Planning Commission than Wes has. I was on the Planning Commission for a number of years, and I think Wes's dedication puts me to shame. So thank you, Wes, for your dedication, for your interest in serving your community, for your insight, and the study that you put into every issue that I've seen that you've commented on, and even before you were an alternate on the Planning Commission, you attended all those meetings and you made comments, and they're always appreciated. I literally can't think of anybody in our city right now who qualifies more for this, so thank you.
Councilmember Rice.
I really agree with a lot of what has been said, and Wes and I have come a long way. We had a conversation before meeting tonight. We really have come a long way, and I think we have mutual respect for each other. I started working in the city about 2008 and really just got serious about really running, the last couple of times. You're absolutely right, every one of you. He has been to every planning commission meeting that I've been to, and I don't think I've missed one. And I have made lots of comments, so in that he has done his due diligence. And I think we have political respect for each other, and I hope to call him a friend after tonight and even now. I guess I have maybe two issues, and he and I have come to, I think, a conclusion on things like rec center, maybe. I don't know if he's changed his mind about that, but I don't know if money solves everything. I don't think it does, but I am really struggling getting past that he does not pledge allegiance to the flag. And I know that I don't mean to diminish all the hard work he has done with the library board or with the alternate planning commissioner, all of that, and I didn't want to blindside him. He knows what I was going to say. And so I just want him to know, and I'm not addressing this to him, but I have been a major hit on Facebook for many years. And even though we don't agree politically on a lot, we can work together, and I believe that. And I think we'll believe that tonight. But I cannot, in my conscience, vote on that basis. I have relatives that have fought in the American Revolution, actually from the French and Indian War on, and they followed that flag into battle. And so I hope that you all understand that. Thank you.
This is a little unconventional, but Wes, if you wanted to come respond to anything, you would be welcome to. Otherwise, I'll take a motion, but would you like to respond or no?
You have any questions?
Anybody have questions? Doesn't seem like it. Wes, I appreciate all the service and am super appreciative that you're willing to do this. So if nobody has any questions, we could take a motion on consent item 3C.
I move that we approve consent item 3C to ratify the mayor's appointment of Wesley Warren to serve a 4-year term on the Planning Commission.
I'll second.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Campbell and a second by Councilwoman Rodella, and I assume we need to do a voice vote on this. We'll start with you, Kim.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Courtney?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
And Councilmember Rice?
No.
Thank you. That is 4-1. All right, on to our action items. This is item 4A, a public hearing ordinance. This is a text amendment. And this is Rob's. We'll go ahead and have your presentation. We'll open the public hearing, and then we'll take questions and comments from council.
Thank you, Mayor. These two amendments are somewhat related. They're just some cleanup we were doing to try to fix some issues in the city's code. The first item relates to assurance requirements. So Highland City, like basically every city in Utah, requires monetary assurances in connection with certain developments, meaning subdivisions and non-residential developments, so the site plans that we review for commercial buildings. A lot of this is already regulated by state law, but we have some areas where we can regulate it, and so we're just trying to make some processes clearer and remove some redundancy. And so just by way of kind of background about what assurances are, I have a little example of how assurances work when we have a subdivision. I'm sure a lot of you know this, but I'll just do a quick refresher for everyone. So for an example, let's say we have the Highland Acres subdivision that's coming in, which I don't think is an actual subdivision in Highland. Like most subdivisions, they have to do some public utilities, they have to build a road, they have to do a public parkway detail. Those are all public improvements that cost a total of $1 million. They've gone through the whole review process, they've gotten approval of their plat and their development plans, and now they want to sell their lots and make money off of this development. So they have to record their subdivision plat that actually creates the lot so they can sell them. Now, on the other hand, the city wants to hold off on them recording their subdivision because we want to make sure all of that $1 million of public improvements gets put in before they, sell their lots and walk away from the development. So assurances is kind of how we handle this. So there's a few options of how this gets resolved. Option one is the developer just goes ahead, puts in all the improvements. They ask us to come and inspect and accept it. And once they do that, they give us a warranty assurance. So that guarantees for 1 year after we've inspected it, all of those public improvements will remain in good condition. After they provide us that warranty assurance and water, we then record the plat and they can sell their lots and move on. The other option is they will instead, what we call bond, it's just kind of a shorthand term for providing those assurances. So rather than doing all the work up front, they instead provide money to the city in one form or another. So in this case, they'll provide $1.1 million, either in cash or a letter of credit, and that calculation comes from 100% of all the costs, which was $1 million, and 10% for administration costs. Because as we all know, if the city has to do something, it's always going to be more expensive than if the developer had to do it. So there's a little bit of a contingency essentially built into that. Once they give us that money, that assurance, we allow them to record their plat, and then they go ahead and start selling lots while also building improvements. This is very common. They'll put that up front, sell lots, get money back, and use that money to then build out the infrastructure. Sometimes this comes up because it's a winter season, so they can't build the road yet, so they just want to start selling lots in the meantime and then get back to building once it warms up. And again, once they go through and build everything, we'll get the warranty assurance, that 10% of the total amount at the end of it. Now, what the amendments we're dealing with today really deal with this third option where they do something in between both of those. Rather than building everything first and then recording, or giving us money for everything and then recording and then building later, they do something in the middle where let's say they install half of all the improvements. So they got all their utilities in, but they didn't finish the road. But now it's winter, they want to sell lots to get more funds, and they don't want to wait till spring to do that. So instead, they can provide a performance guarantee for all that is left of the remaining improvements. So in this case, if they did half, they'd have to provide $500,000 rather than the million. We'd still add that 10% administration costs. And once they do that, then they can record, they can sell, they then complete the remaining improvements. We release back that money back to them, and then they give us the warranty. That's still the $100,000, the 10%. So our proposed amendments really deal with this third option. It's in order to get the bond amounts, they have to provide either an engineer's estimate or a contractor's bid. And we've had some problems doing that, so we're trying to clarify what they need to submit. So we're saying you have to break down the cost by infrastructure improvement, so the category, and then the materials and the quantities and the cost. So for example, under the culinary water category, they have to say we need an 8-inch ductile iron pipe for 1,000 linear feet. It's $40 per linear foot. I have no idea if that's accurate or not. But they said, the total cost is $40,000. So they'll break that down for every single public improvement. And we'll ask for one bid that gives the total costs. What we've been having a problem is often the contractor or the developer will have a bid from the beginning that's everything. They don't have an updated one after they've built half of the stuff. So we don't know exactly how much is left or what the total cost should be. And that ends up, we spend, a couple of weeks going back and forth, reviewing, submitting new estimates, reviewing again. We just like to speed it up for everyone. So we're asking to say, and now if you're doing that option 3, where you're doing the partial build and then bond, you have to give us an updated estimate or bid, or you have to have your engineer look over your first one and say, okay, this is what I certify as remaining, just to speed up the process. And then the rest of the amendments are just cleaning up a lot of the language. There's a lot of duplicate language throughout there. The structure wasn't great, so I just cleaned up a lot of things. The other thing I added is that we can use these assurances not only to cover damage to public property or finished things, but if they leave liens on property, sometimes if they don't pay their, a materialman lien. So a contractor brought in materials and installed stuff, but didn't get paid for it, they can lien that property, so we can use their assurances to pay those types of things off. And then I added a reference to the pre-construction meeting that I'll be discussing in the next item. So with this, the Planning Commission held a public hearing. Notice was duly provided. We had no comments received either before or during the meeting, and they unanimously recommended approval. And on this item, we did post public notice for this hearing on February 4th. Again, have not received any comments, and we recommend holding public hearing and approving the amendments. And with that, that's the end of my presentation, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this text amendment. So we'll go ahead and open that. Anybody like to comment? Perfect. Mr. Warren.
Hello, Mayor Bills. Ooh, it's the first time I've said that up here. Wesley Warren. I just wanted to say thank you to Robert over here. He's kind of amazing, and I think you all know that, but keeps tackling each of these text amendments and cleaning up our code and trying to cut out the loopholes and just another masterclass from Robert Patterson. So thanks, Rob, and thank all of you. That was all I had to say.
Perfect. Thank you, Wes. Anybody else want to comment? We'll go ahead and close the public hearing then and move on to questions, comments. Councilmember Smith, we'll start with you.
Okay, so I did have some questions. I was just kind of thinking this through, and as I read, because most of the time the citizens just think these are all bonds, but these assurances are kind of what we've always thought of as being bonds in a way, right? Although that's just one of the options. So that's what people talk about. So I think it was a problem, if I remember, when I first came on the council, that some of the open space neighborhoods and different things and some construction that went on, then we had the big recession of 2008 through 10. And I think there were some places and developments where the developer either got into a lot of financial trouble or they were not finished. So the question I have is this. So we have this warranty bond or assurance that they have to 10%, so that for a year, if there's any problems with the infrastructure and that's been put in, then the city has that money to fix things, right?
Correct.
So how do we prevent, what is the inspection process and different things as the infrastructure is going in to make sure that we don't have shoddy work go in and then the city has to come up with the money to fix it? Do you know, does that make sense?
No,
yes. Yeah.
And it's a great question. Inspections are probably one of the most important things. I mean, Public Works has a lot of very important things, like keeping water running and sewer running, and this is another part of that, is every time a new development goes in, there's a lot of testing that has to be done for culinary lines, PI lines, sewer lines. We have to have depths correct, and in order for them to, a developer to get towards that warranty, they have to first have Public Works come out and inspect everything they've done and make sure it's the city standards. And then after that, once we're into, so we have we call it going into warranty. So they come in, they say, we're all done, come inspect everything, and we'll usually have a long punch list of things they have to fix. They'll go back and forth a couple of times, then we'll finally pass it off. Go into warranty, then a year later, they have to contact us again and say, okay, now we want to go out of warranty. We want that 10% back. So we go through and we re-inspect everything we can. Obviously, we don't reopen the road to look at utility lines, but we have other ways of testing things. We look at everything. We often will have, again, a punch list of things they'll have to fix that either fell apart or they didn't do right the first time. They'll fix those things, and then we'll give them their money back at the end.
But the fixing comes up through the warranty, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you only refund.
We only refund after, we basically say, we don't ever want to use the money because the city's just not as efficient at doing development as developers are. So we don't really want to collect the money. We just say, go fix all of these things, and then we'll give you your money back. And if we really have to, we'll use it, but we would prefer not to. When I first started practicing, I had to deal with a couple of warranty issues collecting on them, but it was all out of that 2008 recession. That's when a lot of developments went under. But since that time, I really haven't had much in the way of problems. Usually the threat of withholding that money gets the developers to come back and fix all of the issues we have.
So my next question, as I've thought about this, and I'm not a developer, and I appreciate what all the developers do because they're the ones that build our city. But what if you had a developer that, so he puts up the bond, and you're talking about a performance bond that they would reevaluate in the middle of the process maybe. So they want to sell some lots, but all the infrastructure is not in, so they have to come in and have kind of a new bid and appraisal and all that stuff. What if, are they not allowed to sell any lots until that second one comes in, or do we have guarantees that that money's in there? Because I can envision whether developers, things aren't going real well, but he sells a few lots and then he's gone. And so that's kind of, how do you prevent that happening?
No, that's another great question, because that's exactly what we are trying to avoid, is that scenario where someone just sells some bare ground and say, good luck figuring out how to build a road to it. So we have a lot of control over that because it is illegal to sell property, part of a subdivision, without a plat being recorded. If you try to do that, and I've had a couple of developers in Highland say, oh, we'll just write out like a little meets and bounds description of a lot, and then we'll record the plat later, and I've had the property owner say, is that legal? I say, absolutely not, don't do that. So they legally cannot sell the lots, that required without having a plat recorded. We'll have the actual plat. Gretchen has one sitting on her desk right now. We'll hold on to it for weeks and weeks until we've done all the inspections and we have the money in hand. And the two forms of assurance we accept are a cash deposit, either with us or with another financial institution. So there's literally just a bank account holding money, or a letter of credit, which is the next best thing, where a bank says, we have this amount of money. If you present this letter to us saying the developer has failed to put something in, we will give it to you within 30 days. So those are the two forms we accept. We will have to have either of those in hand before we will take that plat, the subdivision plat, down to the county recorder and have it recorded. We don't allow the developer to record plats by themselves. It's always through the city. So Stephanie gets to make a run to the county office every couple of weeks or so to record those things. So we have a lot of control over when all that can happen.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
On this one? Councilmember Courtney.
Just two questions. Actually, maybe three. First one, when we're getting the estimates from the developers, even if they have completed part of the work, we're getting an estimate for the full amount. And that is so that we can determine the warranty assurance, right?
Correct, because it's 10% of the total cost, not just of whatever they're bonding for.
Okay. And then we had exchanged email about this, but just to be clear that in 6103 3A2, no, I'm sorry, 61031E, which is the damage section. It says that the performance guarantee and warranty assurance shall also guarantee the repair or replacement of any public improvements damaged by the contractor or owner or their agents during construction. And if there is really significant damage that's taken place, that doesn't prevent us from requiring an additional amount on a warranty deed after the fact.
No,
Okay.
it is possible to say, somehow they managed to really just destroy an entire water line. We would basically say, well, part of your subdivision is now installing a new water line that's part of your overall infrastructure.
Okay. And last question, and it may be that this is a more involved question, in which case we can catch offline about it, but with the different categories of costs, the reason we're asking for that is because we have to be able to return the performance assurance by category.
Yes, that is correct. So that was one of the changes the state mandated last year, and you might remember we talked about bonding last year as well. The state basically says you must now categorize all of your infrastructure improvements and release funds. Essentially you say, okay, you have $1 million overall, 500,000 is for the road, 200,000 is for your water, 200,000 is for your water, 100,000 is for your sewer. And as they complete each of those, we release portions of that money back to them, and we have to kind of allocate it appropriately.
What are developers required to complete before we return the landscaping assurance?
Typically, it's public. It's public landscaping, but we don't require them to install park strips. We expect the homeowners, when they go to build, especially because if they did install park strips, it would just be destroyed immediately as they go to build on the lot. So it's usually the parkway detail or any kind of development fencing that's required to buffer, especially like for a site plan or something like that. For like the vet clinic down there, there's a little commercial recreation little thing, so we'll have them bond for that as well. Most subdivisions don't have a ton of landscaping improvements.
On 6000 West, for example, right there we have Williams View on one side and Hawkstown on the other. And they're doing landscaping along 6000 West, the wall, and then with our zoning requirements and development code for park strips, that we allow xeriscaping, but xeriscaping is specifically defined as including living material. Do we require those strips to be xeriscaped before we return that, or is just rock fair game, or what do we require before we release that assurance in those cases?
I think for Williams View, we actually required the landscaping to be in because we knew that basically the landowners wouldn't do the other side of the fence because it's the back of their lot. Why would they? So I think on those, we are requiring those to be put in with xeriscaping. But on your majority of your frontages for residential homes, we don't require the park strip to be installed. Essentially, where anyone might do construction over it, we don't want the park strip to be installed yet.
So like on the west side of 6000 West, they've installed a fence, they've put in rock in the park strip, but there's no living material there.
Oh.
Is that something that we would withhold the performance assurance over? Or there doesn't appear to be? Well, I take that back. There appears to be a fair amount of living stuff there at this point because the weeds have grown up, but...
I will look at that one specifically, and maybe we can chat separately about that project.
Yep. Councilmember Campbell.
First of all, on redundancy, I really appreciate it being simplified and eliminating redundancies, but someone who has not live and breathe this language, sometimes redundancy is okay for me, and I'm just speaking for myself. I don't mind redundancy in the code because I don't read the entire code when I'm trying to find something. And if it says engineers and certified contractor bid in one section, it's okay to put it in another section because I'm reading that other section. But that's just my personal view. I think you've done a fantastic job, and I really appreciate you tackling these issues and getting them straightened out. The other one is just a question. When it comes to the maintenance assurance, a warranty assurance, is that like a maintenance bond? And we have a performance bond says it's going to be completed, and then a maintenance bond that says it's going to last. I remember developing a little subdivision and had to put a fire hydrant in, and I had to put a maintenance bond in to say that 2 years, that has to, the pavement has to hold for 2 years. If it doesn't, we're going to take your bond and fix it. If it holds up, you get your bond back in 2 years. So is this more a maintenance bond that you're talking about in this language here?
Yes, so the warranty bond is what you're calling a maintenance bond. It's both a make sure it doesn't fail and that it was actually installed correctly.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Rice, questions?
I too appreciate everything you guys do. I've asked a lot of questions, but so there's a couple I have. And so option 3, I'd like to know from staff which is the most effective or the best to enforce. And then on the money thing, is that enough? Is that too much in your opinion? And I don't know if a year is long enough to hold it. And I realize we don't want to be managing money. That's not our position. So I understand the letter of credit thing. But 8 years later, you know, we have, you know what I'm talking about. A pool was installed, the contractor broke the sidewalks, and for whatever reason it wasn't caught. And now we get to replace that. So I'm wondering if a year is long enough to hold that. And I understand, you know, I can see the pros and cons of holding it longer and not wanting to hold it longer. But if you could answer some of those things, which one, I guess I'm asking, which one is your fave?
Easiest for staff is always option 1, which is they just build everything and then record the plat at the end. But we don't have an option. We don't get to tell them which option to pick. They're allowed to do any of those that they wish. Either build it all up front, or record up front and give us money, or do something in between. So that's how the developer.
Can you put the options back up there? I can't seem to pull it up on my computer for whatever reason. I don't know.
So I just had I don't have like a page with all of them, but option 1 was just doing everything up front. Option 2 is putting all the money to the city first and then doing all the work later. And option 3 is doing some of the improvements and then giving money for the rest of them and then selling their lots at that time while they finish out the rest of the improvements.
So and you like option 1 best? I mean, let's do it all up front and.
Administratively, it's easier because we don't have to deal with the performance assurance. We just get to go inspect all their work and make sure it's done. The less times we have to touch money and transfer it back and forth, the easier it is on staff.
But isn't it best to hold something back in case they break, like the sidewalks, right?
Yes, and actually we have, this was part of last year's changes as well. We have them separately provide an assurance for the sidewalks because essentially we were requiring developers to put in sidewalks. We'd go into warranty for the subdivision. The builders would come in, build homes, break the sidewalks, and then we'd have the developer repair the sidewalk sometimes multiple times because we'd say, well, you can't go out of warranty because the sidewalk's broken again. And we'd have so now we have a separate assurance just for sidewalks that gets held until basically after building is done, and then they go through and repair all of them.
Have we ever had a developer, well, we have, I can think of several, but I mean, it's best they do it in case the developer has to sell it or go bankrupt, correct? Am I correct in that thinking, or is that incorrect?
No, yes, this is exactly to prevent, in case a developer disappears or goes bankrupt, either they have not recorded the plat, which means there's been no development, no one can go build a home on that property, or if they have recorded the plat, we have enough money to put in the infrastructure that's necessary to serve the lots.
I see.
And as to your other question regarding 1 year, that is more or less a state requirement for subdivisions. They say only 1 year unless you have some exceptions. Basically, you have to show that you've had basically poor performance by that developer in the past, and there's some tricky infrastructure that requires a longer period. Then you can go to 2 years. We've, I think, done that only once or twice.
And we do run the back, I mean, our city background with that developer or just a reputation?
We
General,
need
like
to
a
have
credit check.
evidence that we have dealt with, so.
Okay. Yes.
I have no comment. Just appreciate all this work you went into this, and I trust staff in your recommendations.
Then we would be ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move that City Council adopt the ordinance amending the city's development code related to development assurance.
I second it.
That was a motion by Councilwoman Rodella and a second by Councilwoman Rice, and we can go ahead and vote. Okay, and that passes 5-0, and we will move on to a similar process for the next item. So Rob can present it, we'll do a public hearing, and then questions.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second type of cleanup amendment. We have long had a practice of holding pre-construction meetings, we call them pre-cons, that are held after the subdivision or a commercial site plan gets approved, but before they go actually do any work on the site. There's also some other kind of procedural requirements that kind of after approval and before work has to get taken care of. And as I was looking through our code, I realized nothing in our code talks about that or requires those meetings or things to be held. So this is mostly just solidifying what we're already doing in the code. So in case a developer says, why are we doing this? We can say it's in our code. So I'm adding a new section to the development code. And the biggest one is regarding these pre-construction meetings. We have the applicant, whoever the developer is, come in, they bring their engineer, they bring their contractors, and they meet with Public Works, and they go over the plans. They actually have multiple copies of the plans that get stamped. These are the ones that are approved for construction. They're supposed to have them on site. Our guys have copies so that when they go to do inspections, they're all working off the same plans. Our guys will talk to them about kind of best practices, remind them of certain things, like when you do a sewer, this is, remember to do this, to try to catch some issues and establish that communication between them. And then aside from that, I also, know other things that have to happen before they disturb land, which is they have to pay construction and SWIP inspection fees. SWIP, again, is Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, so all of make sure they're not tracking mud out into the road or into our storm drain systems and all of that type of stuff. And all of that, estimates and assurances that we just talked about. And then we have an agreement that just says they'll complete our public improvements as required by the city. So this is mostly just cleaning up something so no developer can say we're asking them to do something that isn't in our code. So with that, the Planning Commission, again, held a public hearing at their last commission meeting with duly noticed, no comments received before or during the meeting, and they unanimously recommended approval. We published notice of this meeting and this hearing, again, received no comments, and we recommend that you hold a public hearing and adopt the proposed amendments. That concludes my presentation.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Comments? No? Then we can go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to Councilmember Courtney for questions.
I don't have any questions.
Mayor Bills, may I make a motion?
Oh,
Go for it. That would be fun.
you're going to make the motion before we get comments?
Yeah.
Okay. Try it.
I'm going to try it. I move that the City Council adopt the ordinance amending the city's development code related to pre-construction requirements.
I second that.
And we've got a motion by Councilmember Rodella, a second by Councilmember Rice, and we'll move on to voting.
I don't think so.
Oh, Doug's not going to let me do that.
We want to move fast, but not that fast.
Okay.
I have some questions. One question. Is this just for subdivisions? If a homeowner has a building
Wait,
lot,
hang on. Okay, so then can we go start with Councilmember Courtney? You didn't have
I
any,
still have no
so okay,
questions.
go ahead. Okay.
so, anyway, if this is a single lot that a homeowner wants to build a building, he submits the plans, he gets the building permit, does he still have to have this meeting?
No, this
It's
is
just
for
subdivisions.
and basically non-residential site plans.
Very good. Thank you.
No question.
No?
Okay.
Councilmember Smith.
I just had one comment. I was just curious, and I could have asked this beforehand, but my Tuesdays are pretty busy before I get here. So I guess the question is, I agree with this very much. Has this been a problem in the past?
No, and I just want to make sure it doesn't become a problem.
Okay, so you're trying to codify something so that right up front, everybody knows the playing rules. Okay.
Correct.
So I wondered if we'd had a consistent problem with this. Okay.
I'll be honest, it actually came out of I was writing the other code amendment, and I realized the timing for providing those things is supposed to happen before they do any work. And I was looking at our code to say, okay, so where do we require them to do this pre-construction stuff? And I realized there was nothing in there. So I just wanted to close that loophole first.
Okay, well, Councilwoman Rodella knew that, so that's why she moved ahead. So I didn't know that. Okay. I didn't know that, yeah.
Okay. Now, dare I say we're ready for a motion?
You bet.
I believe there's already a motion on the floor.
There's already a motion on the floor.
And I
This is
second
why
it.
Doug is sitting by me.
I second it.
Then we're just ready to vote. So that was the motion by Councilwoman Rodella and the second by Councilwoman Rice. Perfect, 5-0. Rob, you're up again.
I think this is
Or
my last
Robert.
item.
Did you call him Robert? Yeah. Robert.
Wes calls me Robert. This item is, unlike the previous items, is an administrative action, and it is not a public hearing, mostly because we sent out notices and no one raised any concerns. So this is related to the hollows. I highlighted the middle lot in there because I can only select one on parcel maps, but it's the lot above that one and below it, 48 through 50 in the hollows. The owner desires to reconfigure those 3 lots into 2 larger lots. So these are some of the smaller lots in the hollows, between 20 and 23,000 square feet, due to the wetlands dedication that we negotiated with the developer. I'll say since the packet was posted, the applicant provided a slightly different plan. They looked at the lots and wanted to make the smaller one slightly bigger. So they moved the property line down by like 10 feet. So just for reference, this is the original subdivision. So you can see lot 48, 49, and 50 there. And then here are the 2 versions. The one on the left is the one that was in the packet. The one on the right is what they're actually asking to be approved. It is just a slight difference. You'll see lot 301 went from 36,930 square feet to 38,712 square feet, and the other lot shrunk accordingly. All still meets development code. The standard for review for a plat amendment is you essentially have to meet 5 findings. First is that neither the public interest nor any person will be materially injured. There is good cause for the amendment. All easements for water and sewer are preserved. No public right-of-way is being vacated, and the plat otherwise meets development code requirements. We mailed a notice to adjacent property owners February 2nd. No comments were received, and we believe all required findings for approving the plat amendment are met. It only affects this owner's property. Allows them to do what they want with their property. It doesn't affect any water or sewer easements or any right-of-way. It overall reduces density by 1 lot and reduces the number of the smaller lots in the hollows by 1. So we're going from 3 small lots to 1 small, 1 large lot. And those lots all meet R140 requirements. So with that, staff recommends approval of the plat amendment. I also note, just historically, about a year ago, the council approved a similar one for the lots just south of it, where they combined 3 lots into 1. So there's some interest in this area of making larger lots.
Perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Campbell, do you have questions about this one?
Yes, if you add up the 3 lots square footage and you add up these 2 square footage, there's 2 square feet missing. I want to lay claim on that, a quick claim deed.
I should also say, I think we have the applicant here as well if you have questions.
It's a rounding error, and I recognize that. No, I just applaud this. It's exciting. It fits the vision of, I think, all of us for Highland, that we have bigger lots. And to do this, to me, I'm thinking if I were the developer, if I were the owner of this, would I do it? I don't know. That's a tough one, but I applaud you, and I don't have any questions. Just thank you.
Councilmember Rice, questions?
I'm going to ditto what Councilman Campbell said, but can I make a motion?
I mean, I'm always fine with that.
Well, I'd like to make a motion when everybody said their piece, but I love the R140.
Okay.
It's good.
I do have a question. Sorry.
Oh, I have a motion. Please, no.
So good. I spoke first.
Hey, I just have a quick question. So when we have a combination of lots like that, how does that affect the water shares that are proportioned to the lots? Since we are, having probably more open space on this, once a watering meter goes on, is there any effect to watering and larger open space?
That's a great question. So we actually require water shares to be dedicated at the plat recording stage based off of the overall subdivision. So we just look at total subdivision size, and this was like 29 acres, I want to say, and we say you give us 3 acre-feet per acre of your development, regardless of whether that's lots or not. So there is water dedicated for all of this property, regardless of how it gets split up between the lots. It will change the impact fees slightly, because I assume there will be, we calculate impact fees for PI in particular based on permeable square footage. So if you have larger open space, they'll pay an increased impact fee.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the home's large enough, it'll cover up more of the lot, and so I don't know what their proposal is, so we'll have enough water shares, it may change the impact fees up or down depending on what they decide to do.
Okay.
Councilmember Smith?
Okay, I do have a question, and you addressed this a little bit in the packet. So you have 3 lots there, and this returns back to some of the discussion we've had on assurances and that. But I assume when the infrastructure was put in, they had stubbing for 3 water meters, 3 pressurized irrigation, the whole thing. What happens to the 3rd one, and do you surplus the water meter?
Great question, and I should have put that in my presentation, though I did believe I've mentioned it in the staff report.
It is in the staff report.
So our standard practice is whenever we have these combinations, we require one of the sets of stubbed utilities to be removed and capped at the main. So and that's actually reflected on a note on the proposed plat. So they will have to apply for a right-of-way permit to cut into the road and pick one of the 3 to lose. They'll look at the 3 stubs and figure out which ones are best for their property and keep the 2 that are best. But we don't allow multiple utility services to one lot. I don't know what we'll do with the meter.
Thank you. I think we're ready for wait, nope, we're not ready.
Oh, someone can make a motion if they want, but I do have a question. One, just since we have a new plat, just to follow up on Scott's question, just to please be sure that that new note is on the updated plat as well. Since one of the items in the findings is that we've already gotten approval has already been obtained by from the utilities for changes to the public utility easements. Since we have changed the public utility easements with that 10-foot move, do we need to get new approval? How's that work?
Yes, and actually they have notes, boxes on the plat for the utilities to sign, so I'll ask them to go get those signatures just to confirm. I don't anticipate any problems shifting that, 10 feet, but I'll ask them to do that. And I'm just checking. Yep, we still have that note on there about capping the one service, so all is good.
Anything else?
Madam Mayor, I do. Some of the comments have brought another question. Can I ask that question?
Sure.
Rob, it's capped at the main, which is in the center of the road. Well, wherever, but it's in the road where you have to tear up the road.
Yes.
Where if we allowed it to go to the property line and capped it there, we would save our roads. It just, every time we go through a road, I was in Sandy where they repaved a road, and then 2 months later came through and put a new sewer line down the middle of that repaved road. I just hate cutting in, because every time you cut into a road, is it really unreasonable to think that we could cap it at the property line and not have any abuse? Or were you worried that they would somehow tie into it and we wouldn't know it? What's the reasoning for capping it And that's probably a Chris question.
Chris question.
Why are we capping it in the road?
It's just not usually a good idea to have an unused infrastructure pipe underneath the road that we're not aware of. You know, they could easily accidentally.
But we are aware of it.
Well, we are aware of it as we're talking about it, but the future homeowner, you know, 5 years down the road, the lot could be sold, someone could be doing some landscaping in the front yard, and all of a sudden, you know, run into a pipe, you know, the sewer or I'm thinking more like the culinary water lateral, pull it out and, you know, put a hole in our system. Same with the sewer line. We have a sewer pipe. It could get debris into it. It could end up causing...
Yeah, the debris starts to make sense, and then the backflow of that debris. So I get it. It just seems really sad to me.
I agree. I don't like tearing up roads either, but it's usually better not to have stub outs that aren't used.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready.
I'll make that motion.
I already spoke
Oh,
for it.
she already made it?
Sorry, Scott.
It's already spoken for.
I move that the city council accept the findings and approve the proposed subdivision plat amendment.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Rice, a second by Councilmember Campbell. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right, I think we're on to Chris. This is action item 4D.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that was continued from last city council meeting, but we wanted to talk a little bit about a storm water maintenance. The city storm drain system is a vital component of the city's infrastructure. It's probably been overlooked, unfortunately, for the last several years. But you know, by being overlooked, we could end up facing issues with clogged systems that prevent from proper infiltration of rainwater. Rain is where water falls from the sky. I don't know that we've seen that lately, but it is a phenomenon that happens.
I saw it today.
Driving into council, maybe you saw some today. So we really need to do a better job of cleaning out our storm drain systems. This is something that also affects our SWIP inspections when we have those. It's kind of required, and it's kind of, I think Andy had referred to it as the redheaded stepchild of the city.
Only I'm allowed to say that, though, because I am a redheaded stepchild.
And this is a map just showing what most of our system looks like. A lot of these dots are either inlets or they're sumps. Highland's a little bit lucky in that we have a lot of our storm system is a lot of our collection system just goes into sumps, and it's allowed to percolate into the ground right there. We don't have a lot of pipes. In a lot of other cities, you end up starting out with small diameter pipes, and as it gets closer and closer to an outfall, you have to increase that pipe size. It could add miles and miles worth of large diameter pipes. We don't have to worry about those. We do have to worry about the sumps. And I've included the details of what a sump really looks like. You can kind of see on the right there, there's an inlet. That's really what you see on the surface. That's what where the water comes in off of the street or through the curb and gutter. Oftentimes it will go into a clean out, which looks basically like a manhole. But then you can kind of see on the right there, that's a profile view of what a sump looks like. And some of those sumps are upwards of 12 to 20 feet deep, 25 feet deep in some of the rare instances. These are about 5 foot in diameter. And just think of something that's 5 feet in diameter, 20 feet deep. It's kind of hard to get in there unless you have something that, you know, acts as a giant vacuum that can help suck some of that material out. And so what is often used is a vac truck. The vac truck has a boom you can kind of see over the top of it there that helps to hold the hose, move it where it needs to go. It can retract it and extend it into a hole. It's capable of jetting a storm drain and vacuuming out debris, and it's a fairly hefty price tag along with those, $620,000 approximately. The advantage that you do get, though, with the vac truck versus other options is it's equipped for larger or longer hoses for removal of debris from sumps, manholes, and inlets. We had originally talked about looking at a vac trailer. We had priced some of those out, and when we did our budget last year, we thought that would be sufficient. But honestly, it doesn't, they're not capable of getting to some of our larger sumps. And if we can't do a complete job, then the thought is maybe we need to reconsider what our options are. So the boom feature, you know, those hoses, when you've got 20 feet of hose, get pretty heavy. It's not something that we can manually lift, so that's why it's got the boom to help with that. If we had gone with the vac trailer, you'd also need probably a 1-ton truck to haul it, to remove the material, to bring in water. The vac truck is kind of an all-in-one approach. You don't need a second vehicle in addition to the trailer to really get that to work. And then you can haul away your materials, and we put it out in our drying bed and then dispose of it at a landfill at a later date. Before we actually went too far with this, though, we did want to see what it would be like if we hired a consultant or a contractor to come in and do the work for us. So we sent out a proposal and we asked contractors, sent them that map that was included earlier in the presentation, and said, this is our storm drain system. We want to be able to clean out all of these cleanouts and inlets, sumps, about on a 3-year rotation. So tell us how much it would cost us to do 3 years worth, you know, 1/3 every year for the next 3 years. These are the bids that we got back. The low bid was $422,000 from Nolan Construction. Have some concerns with that when you look at that. That's really literally what half of the other bids were. Really gives you a pause for concern. So we've kind of compared to what it would cost if Highland City were to purchase a vac truck ourselves, hire 2 part-time storm drain employees to help with the maintenance of this. They would be paired with some of our existing full-time employees, and that's kind of the 3-year total we got on that. It beats the 3 of the bids that we got. It didn't beat the low bid that we have. So basically, we figure we have a few different options. If we want to go ahead and purchase a vac truck, we could do it this year. We do have sufficient funds in our storm water fund to be able to do that. We could consider waiting and doing it as part of a budget item in the upcoming city budget. The prices for this type of machinery has gone up significantly over the last few years, so I'd be a little bit concerned that it might be more expensive if we wait, but that's also an option. Or the option is just to hire the low contractor, Nolan Construction, and see how they go and see if they can do the work that we need to have done.
Okay.
Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Rice, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. So I really appreciated Chris and Jeff when they took me on a tour, and I learned, and so I've really thought heavily about this a great deal. And I think one of the things that maybe you should address is that we've kind of ignored our storm drains, and we run the risk of having fines from the state. Not we've ignored them. That's probably a little exaggerated, but we haven't.
We haven't given them proper attention.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. That'll work. And so I think, especially since, you know, the money is there, that this is a wise investment. My only concern, I know that you have somebody to run it, and just so the mayor doesn't run that.
Yes.
That would be my.
Yes, that is the concern.
Anyway, no,
And
and I really appreciate all the work you guys do and everything. I do. I was just, my eyes were really opened in that.
With the new employee that Aaron had mentioned earlier in the city council meeting that we stole from Draper Colton, he actually is certified in running one of these machines. We already have one that's part of the sewer department. And
But it doesn't go deep enough, or I can't remember.
They use it for different purposes. And
Okay.
anytime you use equipment for sewer, you never want to use it for another purpose.
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
rule of
gotcha.
thumb.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for all your work.
Councilwoman Rodella.
No questions. I feel like we've talked about this a lot, and we kind of determined what we wanted to do in our budget meeting, so I'm fine with proceeding ahead and purchasing the equipment, especially because I've seen issues that my neighborhood has had when it rains. We definitely get out our kayaks, so excited about this.
Councilmember Smith.
So I have a couple questions. One, if we purchase this vac truck, I mean, it's a major investment, where would it be housed when it's not being used?
We would house it at the Public Works facility, the shop, near the mouth of the canyon, behind the locked gates.
Okay, and what sort of security would we have on protecting it? I.e., what are we going to do to prevent it from showing up in New Mexico?
So we've equipped a lot of our vehicles right now with the
Trackers?
I'm sorry?
Do you have trackers on them and things?
The trackers, exactly, yeah. And we would definitely do the same with this. We've looked at installing GPS units on some of these. I know from some of my past experience, they can have issues with draining the battery, so we're trying to figure out exactly what the best option is, but we definitely would have it equipped with trackers.
Okay, I was just a little confused about one of your other comments. Obviously, if you're using the back truck to suction out the storm sewers, and I'm sure these sumps, there's a lot of a lot of debris that sat there a long time and become very kind of corrupt in some ways. But at the same time, if like Councilwoman Rodella was talking about, we had that heavy rain in August of 2024, and there was some flooding in the city. Could that back truck be used to go into some of those areas and just kind of clean that up? So it's kind of an emergency preparedness thing as well as Councilwoman Rice was talking about.
Absolutely, yeah. It could go in and suck up any flooding that we have, get some of the surface water off and into the tank and be disposed of somewhere else.
But if we have that, doesn't that avoid that?
That's the intent, absolutely.
But sometimes things get overwhelmed.
Right.
And you're only going to do a third of the city at a time, right? You
Correct.
can't do the whole city in 1 year. The other question I have is, do you have enough room up at the Public Works building? Why wouldn't you put this in the new park maintenance building?
Well, that's where we'll get more room with the parks moving out of the existing Public Works building over into the Parks Department. I think with that move being made, we will have more room, sufficient room to house this up at Public Works. And Public Works guys are pretty protective of their equipment. If this is something that's owned by the Streets and Storm Drain Department, they're not going to want it to be housed in the Parks Department.
So it said in the packet that this would probably be good for 25 years. And you're estimating it'll be $10,000 a year of maintenance?
That's correct.
And what sort of maintenance? I mean, obviously you're doing oil and all this stuff.
Oil and lubing and rotating tires and a lot of lubrication of some of the hydraulic parts that they have.
What sort of warranty comes with this truck? I mean, they have warranty for a year or two, or is it everything?
They do have. I think it's a 2-year warranty on it. Honestly, I'd have to look to be sure.
Yeah, I would like to know what that is, because this is a major expense. I mean, it's like buying a house in Highland.
Yeah.
Well, one of the cheaper houses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilmember Courtney.
First of all, I'd just like to reiterate what Liz said, that really am pleased to see that we're going to be giving some real attention to the storm drain system going forward, and hopefully prevent the city from turning into just one big Macy's parking lot. I am a little bit concerned, just as looking forward for wanting to have some discussion, that we have $500,000 of money that we have nothing to do with it, sitting in our storm sewer fund. And I think that going forward, we just need to take a look at the fees that we're collecting for that, and maybe we need to have some, annual look at each of our enterprise funds of, what do we have in terms of days of cash on hand? And if they start climbing, that's a good indication that, okay, maybe we need to revisit this. Either we're specifically saving for something, or maybe we've got our fees set too high, so.
Fair enough.
How many years is this truck expected to perform?
It should last 25 years.
And so when you look at this right-hand column in the 829, that's assuming the truck's worth zero after 3 years. It's going to be worth 600,000 or 700,000. So the incremental difference between us doing this and continuing to pay, even Nolan, I think we're better off long-term, 10, 15 years down the road, because this truck's going to last. So I appreciate this analysis, but I think that 829,000 a little deceptive. I would subtract the value of that truck from that amount, which significantly reduces that, and I think would be the lowest thing on the bottom row here. So yeah. I applaud this. In terms of the quality of product that we're getting, let's say there's the Thing quality, and there's a Chevrolet quality, then there's a Cadillac, and then there's a Mercedes quality. Where does this fit in? Are we buying something that's going to last longer than if we buy something else a little cheaper?
I think this is a good quality. I'd probably classify it as probably a Chevy. It'll get the job done. It's not necessarily super fancy. They've got some fancier, more expensive ones, but there's a lot of bells and whistles that you can get on these. I think we've looked at a few different models, and this is the one that we felt would meet our needs the best.
Very good. I always assume that you guys do your homework, and we appreciate that and trust that you're giving us your best recommendation.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I've got one more. I apologize.
Okay.
So I assume that you guys have, can you talk about warranty just a little bit on something like this? I have no clue. And what the maintenance fees would be per year? Just
so yeah, we expect there to be about $10,000 in maintenance costs annually for this equipment. I don't recall exactly what the warranty exact warranties are on this. I could go back and take a look at that and let the council know. But
okay. Do we have a motion?
I have one more question.
Yep, sure.
So can we have this in the fling parade?
Can Councilmember Smith ride on it in the fling parade?
The council, we could ride on it.
I'm sure we could.
Can the mayor drive it?
The mayor drive it?
That'd be dangerous.
It's fine. All right. Do we have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion. I can do that. I move that the city council direct staff to move forward with a storm drain cleaning plan in-house and approve the purchase of a vac truck in an amount not to exceed $620,000 from GL number 54-40-59, $480,000 of which will be included in the year-end budget adjustment using fund balance.
I'll second it.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Rice and a second by Councilmember Smith. And we're ready to vote. And that passes 5-0. On to our expedited items. This is also Chris.
So we have a bid award for a crack sealing project. I want to remind the council that we did at one time have a street maintenance plan for the entire city. It's kind of gotten out of date. We will have a new program coming out. LTAP will be coming out and doing an evaluation for the city this May. They'll give us new recommendations going forward on what roads should be prioritized to have what types of treatments done. In the meantime, we're just looking at putting together a road maintenance package based on what roads haven't been done, some of the existing road conditions, and kind of preparatory to doing that road maintenance project, we wanted to go out and do some crack sealing of some of the roads that would have some of the bonded matrices applied as part of that road maintenance project. So that's what the intent is on this. We had the low bidder on this project, and do we have, so Morgan Pavement was the low bid for that with a 10% contingency at $60,907. Back to you, Mayor.
Perfect. This is an expedited item, so unless anybody has any questions.
I do.
Okay.
So I know that the SMP, or the street maintenance plan, you said was out of date, but as I look at some of these subdivisions, well, on the map, it seems like a couple of them are fairly new subdivisions, okay? And my understanding is, and you can correct me on this, is that we are just trying to fulfill that bond, because there's a couple here that I'm just kind of going, I'm not sure why, so maybe you can elaborate on that. And I thought that crack filling is not my favorite. I think it's really ugly. It's just a personal thing. But on 9600 North, I thought that we were preparing to actually pulverize that. And so how long does the crack sealing last? I mean, is this in preparation for that, or are you just trying to put that off some more? Where are we? And on 6000 West, and which is, both of those streets are really bad. 9600 North, 6000 West, but I'm, on my way here tonight, I came down one of the streets behind my home. This is not on my street at all. It's behind my home. I don't think that road the cracks have ever been filled. And I've been here 29 years. I don't think that has ever been done. I don't see where it's been, and you can tell where the cracks have been filled. So I'm just wondering why we're specifically looking at these newer ones when we've got some really old ones, or are they on the agenda on that street maintenance plan to be pulverized?
We do have some other roads that will have more of a reconstruction. I'm not sure which roads necessarily that you're talking about, but we do have 5 or 6 roads that we will be doing more of a pulverization or a reconstruction of the road surface itself.
And 9600 North is not on that list?
9600 is not on that list, nor is 6000. The intent is to do the high-density bonded matrix on those 2 roads after we do the crack seal.
Well, it just seems to me, I mean, we're about to do hopefully some road calming things with paint and, and I know this is 2 different issues, but kind of it's together. I'm just, in my brain, I can't quite get around doing all of that and doing this first and then that, and then we're going to come back, 5 years from now and pulverize 9600 North and 6000?
The intent of doing the bonded matrix is to extend the life of the road. You can do some of the, ideally you can go through and do some of the more minor rehabilitation products to avoid having to do a total reconstruction. That's almost when the road is failed, it's kind of too late. You can really extend the service life of the road by just doing better, more frequent, intermediate remedies to the road surface itself.
Do you know when those 2 streets have these ever been the cracks filled on
either of these 2 roads?
Well, any of them that's on that's on the map.
List.
And I don't know if the public can see that map, but I'm looking specifically at 6000 West and 9600 North, but the others as well. I know the others haven't because they're new subdivision.
And in the new subdivisions, part of the fee that the city charges is to do this at the completion of warranty. So those are fees that have already been paid for by the developer for some of the newer subdivisions before we get the final acceptance after the warranty. So that's why those are on the list. Those aren't even necessarily, coming out of the city's budget to do that. It's kind of basically been reimbursed. I couldn't tell you when we've last done any road maintenance on 9600 or 6000. I've relied on our street superintendent to make the recommendations. With us not having that formalized road maintenance recommendations from the consultant that we'll get later on this year.
I know it has been done on the west end of 9600 North several years ago, but I've been here for 30 years and I don't remember 9600 or 6000 having any. And I know there's people in the audience that might back me up on that, but that's all the questions I have. I just.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Just one question, that we approved a road package in May for last year. And the crack seal portion of that was about half the cost of this one. Is that because we have significantly more work being done here, or have prices just come up that far? Or
Yeah, basically we've almost doubled the total linear footage. When I look at some of the unit prices per linear foot, they are also higher, about 20% higher than they were last May. So it's kind of a combination of the two.
So when I read through the packet and was kind of studying different things, this particular company came in at a lower bid, and one of the things they talked about is when they looked at it, they didn't think they need to seal between that and the curb. But both 6000 West and 9600 have long stretches without any curb. Is that what factored into this?
I mean,
there's a lot of areas not curbed. Yeah.
There's a lot of areas that are not curbed, and we'll get an actual linear footage. We think that when the project is finally completed, we probably will be closer to their original bid. But where we had so many other bids that were so much higher, we were trying to get all of the bids on even footing. When we put it out, we didn't give them a linear footage price. We gave them the map and said, it's up to you to go out and take a look at these roads and determine exactly how much linear footage you're going to have to do. When we've gotten the bids back, the linear footages that they had calculated were quite a bit higher. I think it was on average about 140,000 linear feet. Compared to like last May, I think our bid was for about 77,000 linear feet. But I think once we actually sit down and go out there with them, we'll probably end up taking that down quite a bit based on that.
So kind of a follow-up question. So on the areas of those two roads where there is curb, are they going to seal at the curb?
If there's a big enough gap to where we feel like it needs it. I think we go for anything that's larger than like a 1/4 inch gap, we'll have to have them seal that up for us, yes.
Yeah, I just know in my neighborhood where we seal our own roads and they need to be repaved badly, but we always seal along the curb because that always is an area of weakness.
Absolutely, otherwise you get water and drainage in there, then
Coming
you get
right
the freeze
up
thaw,
underneath, yeah.
and it starts to...
Okay, I was just curious. I'll make the motion.
I think Councilmember Campbell had a comment.
I have one more question. Horrocks has done this for us before. Did they bid on this, and this was just a lower bid?
I'm sorry, Horrocks?
Yeah.
They're an engineering firm.
Yeah,
They are, but
firm.
maybe I've got the wrong name. It starts with an H. But whoever did it, they did not blow out the cracks and get the seeds out of there. And it's problematic, and we can extend the warranty, but it just creates challenges far sooner than if they blow that out. Are we sure that Morgan will blow out those cracks?
We're sure. We talked to them about that, and they've done some crack sealing for us in the past, and we've been pleased with how they've done that in the past.
All right, thank you.
I'll make the motion. I move that the Highland City Council award a bid for the crack seal project to Morgan Pavement in the amount of $60,907. We could round that to $61,000, I suspect.
I
but
second
whatever.
that.
All right, motion by Councilmember Smith and a second by Councilmember Rice, and then we're ready for a vote. And that passes 5-0. Councilmember Rice, would you like to talk to us about emergency preparedness?
Very briefly. I'm just hoping that people who are watching at home we'll watch their newsletters because we are trying to put just some ideas, informational things in about emergency preparedness. We want people to be very aware of what's going on and maybe what they need. I've worked with Jeff, and we're working with the LDS Church, any other religion that would like to be a part of that. I want them to really make sure that they have enough water stored per person. It's a gallon of water per day per person. Maybe they need to think about what they do with their waste when those things are going badly. And I can always use help with some of this. But I just want to make people aware that that is in the newsletter, and I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I just am really trying to bring that forward for the residents of Highland, and I could use some help, Wes. So
Perfect. If anybody would like to volunteer to work on emergency preparedness, contact Liz, and we appreciate it. She's worked really hard already, and it's much appreciated. Thank you. There's lots to do. Yeah.
Are we, okay, can we
Yeah,
discuss
no, you
motion?
can, yeah.
So, Liz, I know we've talked about this some, and I appreciate the fact that you're working hard on this. What do you consider our biggest emergency to prepare for?
So everything I've read so far on various websites, everything from FEMA to the LDS Church to other religions that are concerned about that, and we all are. I think that water storage, food storage, we are on our own for at least 10 days, according to FEMA, and probably, I've read everything from 3 to 10 days. But where we put our waste, how we're getting our water, because if those lines are broken in an earthquake, and that's our biggest dilemma, I have to tell you that I've sat through several things in the last month. One was the wildfire training. The other one was the 911 that I attended with Councilman Courtney, which was really informative of what goes on and how they are prepared. But I just think that it's really some individual thing that we really need to make sure that we're each prepared for those things. Sometimes we think it can't happen to us, and yet it does. So those things, food, of course, is a concern, but the water is a real concern if those lines are broken, okay, and how purified that can be. Does that answer your question, or did I answer?
Yeah, and so basically you're saying earthquakes maybe are big, and since we've been having a lot of tremblers recently, I mean, more than I remember recently.
Right.
And,
Well, if you watch,
yeah.
I always watch the USG website. I get updates on that, and we're always rocking and rolling. It's just some of them are so small that they don't show up, but we always are. So that seems to be the biggest one, but I'm going to say that wildfire is certainly more worrisome than I ever thought it to be. And flooding is
we have, some of the east-west collector roads that we have. If you look at Canal Boulevard East, you know, we had an average speed that's 6 miles over the speed limit. I haven't updated these numbers from when we had it before. The intent is to show kind of how we prioritize some of the traffic calming measures that we've taken. Canal Boulevard East was pretty high, 30% over on the 85th percentile speeds. The midsection was 27% over, and the average speeds were about 4.25 miles per hour over. But if you look at the far right on 9600 North, you'll see that the average speed is more than 6 miles per hour over, and over 44% of the volume is over on the 85th percentiles. So that really does look like one of our next areas that we wanted to focus on. What our plan is at this point is we've already installed one set of LED stop signs at 6800 West and 9600. We've got additional signs ordered to be placed at 6000 West. We also will install 2 sets of the driver feedback signs so that we can let drivers know where they're going and how much over the speed limit they are. We intend to do, like we mentioned earlier, a seal coat with the road maintenance package this year. After we do that, we thought we could restripe the roadway so that we have a double yellow center line, and to put in the white shoulder lines, and we'll do probably a 10-foot width so that we can do some road narrowing. I think 9600 is a good application for narrowing the roadways. We also want to consider possibly putting in a pedestrian island at the Mitchell Hollow Trail where that crosses near the west end of 9600 North. We still have to acquire some property on the south side of the road and make sure that we have enough width to do that, depending on how that kind of looks. But that's one idea that we've had, and that would be similar to what we've done on Canal Boulevard and on 6000 West. It might be a good application in that point if we have sufficient room to do that. And that concludes what I've got with these slides. Mayor, if there's other questions?
Perfect. Well, I guess what I would like to do is ask you what information, if any, you need from us tonight, and then I would like to just let council each have a turn asking questions and make sure that when we bring this back, you have whatever information we need as well.
I think if the council wants to let me know what their thoughts are on kind of the plan that we have in place, or if there's other suggestions that they have that they would like us to consider, I'd be happy to take a look at them.
Okay. Councilmember Smith, what do you think? What questions do you have that you would like them to bring back for next time, or comments about any of this?
Well, I'll be honest, I don't drive down that road too much since Canal Boulevard opened up, but, you know, I think there's been a lot of concern from the neighbors, especially the fact that there's a lot of driveways that empty into that road. And so, you know, I found on Canal Boulevard East, when we put the 2 sets of 2 driver feedback signs, I do think it makes a difference, because I find, well, and this is just what I observe, and because I try to drive the speed limit through there, but I find when people see that flashing sign, they do slow down, at least for that section. So I think that would be helpful. I really think that's a good thing. And then I think it's great to have the flashing stop signs, because it's so easy sometimes to be distracted, especially if people are doing things that can distract them, like cell phones, and just not see the stop sign. And so I think that's very helpful, that flashing light. So I like all of these considerations, but I think really what we need to do is listen to feedback from people that live along that road and observe it. And I think Mr. Pace is here on that road and or close by, and of course Liz Rice drives it every day. So I think I put a lot of feedback on Canal Boulevard because I live right there and I drive it every day. And I think it's helpful to listen to the people that live there and follow their suggestions. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Can I ask you also, just if you're interested in, and we, it's not on our agenda, so we can't really talk about it tonight, but if you're interested in, when they bring this back, looking at anything additional on Canal, on that other end, on the west end?
On the west end?
Yes, so just so we can ask staff to bring that back or not.
Well, we've got a $35,000 speed bump we could put over there.
Isn't there a new Taylor Swift song about a temporary speed bump, Kim? Do you know what I mean?
What? What about?
We'll talk about Taylor
okay.
Swift later.
Oh,
The temporary speed
In
bump. Isn't
Tucson?
that in a song? No, it is.
I don't know.
Why don't we
Taylor
know?
Swift.
All right. Is that a yes? You would be interested in something else on Canal?
That is
Yeah.
a yes, on Western Canal,
Yes.
because, the people there many times have come, and I know they've sat down with Chris, and
Yep.
I just think we need to look at what they're really talking, because I think it's the part from 6,000 west, and especially on the Madison Avenue part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we'll finish everybody else, but there may be interest in bringing that back. What do you think, Councilmember Courtney?
I like the traffic calming measures that you're talking about. I would be interested in phasing them, doing depending on when we're actually going to get the painting in, doing the painting, waiting 3 or 4 weeks before putting in the speed signs, just so that we can get some idea of what effect the different things have. Now, if that means that we're waiting 9 months to do it, then yeah, let's put the speed signs in first. But if we reasonably can get the striping down and then see what effect that's having before we put something else on, I think that'd be really interesting information as we're looking at other roads in the city.
Yeah.
Councilmember Campbell.
Yes, I'm going to blindside Aaron a little bit and change my mind of we talked about today, because I do believe we need to address the Western Canal. And I told Aaron today that wasn't as high a priority as 9600, and it's not, except I don't want to ignore what needs to be done there, especially when it comes to the pedestrian crossing and the safety of that. And paint is always one of the cheaper ways we can go. So if you can look at some of the lesser expensive ways, because I do think our focus has to be on 9600. The data's there and we can't ignore that, but we cannot ignore the safety on Canal on the western side. We've done a great job on the east side, but we've not done maybe as much as we need to on the west side. So I'd like to see some balance in there, lesser expensive kinds of solutions that we can do now, and not put it off any longer.
So can I remind the council that we did paint the bike lanes along Canal Boulevard through that section?
Yes.
Through the entire section. So that was kind of our step that we took last year. to
Well, I'm
help
thinking of the
get
paint,
some-
the stripe things that
and
slow traffic.
We have actually talked about doing that too. I think one of the council members brought that up, and I have talked to our staff about doing that. So I think that's another one.
That's
The
the
optical
horizontal
speed
lines.
bars.
Yeah.
I think that would be great through the curved areas. And we'll also be installing the rapid flashing beacon crossing at Mitchell Hollow as part of that project. So they get to pay for that, so we don't have to.
Good. Well, I trust your priorities. When you bring them to us, I'd just like that to be factored in.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Rice.
First of all, I want to really thank Chris for spending a lot of time with me out on 9600 North. We have really been out there a lot. And so, and when we talk about the island and on that trail, that's right where it comes out there, where we looked, correct? Off of Mitchell Hollow when you talk about that,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
The same one, okay. I don't want to diminish anything off of, the west side of Canal Boulevard, and I really appreciate the council in this because, in the retreat and everything that you have done to support 9600 North has not gone unnoticed by me, and I really appreciate it. However, I kind of want it all. Doug, we have battled 9600 North for as long as I've lived here. And I have been out there and watched people not even slow down at those stop signs. They have blown through those. Now, it's gotten better since we put the flashing ones on. But it's 50 miles an hour. I saw your speeds, but also, when you said we're putting the flashing stop signs, you're on 6,000, you mean on the corner where the other church is, 6,000 West
and 9600 North. Is that correct, Chris?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're going to get those.
Yes.
Okay. And I would really, and I don't know where the other one is, Aaron and I talked about this, but honestly, and I can see this as well on Canal, but we really do need 2 of those islands on 9600. I just don't know where the other one is fitting and proper for it to be put. But it just needs to, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it, and the sooner we do this, the better. I get a lot of calls every day, lots of texts. I have 15 unread texts right now. So anyway, but I just really appreciate all the work you've done, Chris, with me on that. Thank you.
Kim?
I am not an engineer. I have no experience in essentially knowing what type of measures to put into a roadway. That is why we hire staff. And I know that you guys look at your data and then you take your expertise and your work experience and all that you know and then come back and tell us. And I have to tell you that what you tell us to do is usually what I'm going to say works. And I know you go back and you look at feedback from the citizens and you take that into account also. So really when it comes down to it, I'm not going to give you suggestions of what I think I should be putting there, because that's not my experience, my expertise. That's you, and that's why we trust you and we pay you. So I don't have any suggestions there. I think that what you're going to tell us is what I'm going to go with. Second, as to Canal Boulevard, we have done a traffic toolbox, and we have done it specifically so that it looks at the highest priority public safety issues. And that is what our priorities are, and that is what we're supposed to focus on. I think I would need to look at that traffic toolbox to see if the west area of Canal Boulevard was our next highest priority area. I don't believe it is. We have a gentleman here who talked about 10400 North, which is a higher priority than that area. We only have so much money and budget for these public safety issues, and so I want to start with our priorities and then go down the line from there. So that's my feelings in that area.
Did you have another comment, Councilmember Smith? I thought you looked like you were going to say something.
I'm going to be nice. No, I actually, you brought up some of the same things, because I was thinking, we have a traffic toolbox. These issues that we have, or these remedies, are all listed in that. So, you know, we went through a lot of work to come up with the traffic toolbox, so I think we ought to use it. I was just in agreement with you, so.
And maybe would it make sense to, when you bring this back, to show us that list of priorities so that we can see how things ranked and where they ranked, so that we can kind of have an idea where they are on the list?
Yes, we can do that.
Do you feel like you need any other information from council, or are you good?
I'm good, I think.
Perfect. Okay, well then let's talk about the pond.
Chlorinate it.
So we actually had reached out to a company that specializes in remediation of ponds like this that have excessive algae growth a couple years ago. For some reason, we were unable to recommunicate with them for quite a while, but we've reestablished contact with them, and we are asking them to help us. Basically, they've offered to provide us with a lake monitoring and management plan for Highland Glen Pond based on information that we provide with them and some water testing that we do out there on site. We'll send that back to them, and they'll go through an analysis, and they'll look at the algae and aquatic weed management and make recommendations, whether that be chemical, biological, or mechanical, or some combination of those types of treatments. They'll make recommendations on insect management, waterfowl management, odor control, irrigation system management, the circulation and aeration, operation and maintenance, and then provide continued monitoring and maintenance so we can hopefully have some path forward on ways to help manage that pond and keep some of the algal blooms away. So,
is it? I'm sorry, I'm talking out of line.
You're fine.
So, is it algae bloom so much as the E. coli? It seems like the E. coli is always the big problem there.
That's part of the problem too, yeah. I think that goes back to some of the waterfowl management, but they'll look at all of that.
Okay.
So Chris, is this just communication? You don't need anything from us, just to let us know that you'll be coming back with a bid or a proposal or something?
We've already got the bid,
Okay.
and it was within the purview of the city administrator to approve, so we're going forward with this, but we will provide the results to the city council once.
And when will we see those, do we think?
Probably within the next 90 days.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay.
Just a quick thought observation. Given our past experience with them, it is my hope that we are not giving them an annual contract or anything, that they will be invoicing us no longer duration than monthly.
Yeah.
So that if they suddenly drop off the face of the earth, we've only paid them for what they've done so far.
That's absolutely the way we'll go with that, yep.
I do have a comment.
Okay.
I know we put a sign up that has a QR code to get to the site to say what the pond is. I can't tell you how many times I've walked around there, I've clicked on it, and it says it doesn't say E. coli, but you know that's what the problem is. Which is, to me, a serious problem. You know, Scott would probably tell us a lot more about that, but it's pretty serious. So if we know that the pond has got E. coli in it, can we put a sign up, not just directing people to go there and find out? Because as I go around, I'll walk and say to a parent, you know there's E. coli in that water, and they immediately get their kids out because they didn't check that QR code. And I'm guessing that maybe 80 or 90% of the people don't check. And to me, that falls back on us. Are we doing our due diligence in terms of notifying the public when we know we have a pond that's got that kind of problem in it? Can we put warning signs up? We can word it the same way that the QR code words it. We don't have to say E. coli, but that same wording maybe could be posted anytime it's there.
And I thought we had done that last year when the levels got too high.
Maybe is part of the issue, maybe that the information we provide through that QR code doesn't pay any attention to a threshold. Because my understanding is that if you've got a natural body of water, you've got E. coli.
Yeah.
And so if it's always reporting that there's something there in the pond, maybe we're reporting it too low of a level, that it isn't a concerning level.
How often do we test the water?
I think it's tested, I think it's monthly.
It's actually not us that tests, it's the
State.
I don't think it's the health department. Is it the water quality or something?
Yeah.
And then they alert the
Yeah.
health department, and the health department tells us whether or not we have to put out a special alert, basically. Like, there's a lot of
I think the alert is
state
going to be based
bodies.
on safe levels.
Yes,
I would
and that's
imagine.
to Councilmember Courtney's question, yes. So there's a certain number that they're looking for, and if we're above that number, then they classify us in a way where they put out a specific type of alert, basically.
Thank you.
On that.
And
And
I
so the
was-
QR code is supposed to take them to a site that says, like, this body of water is rated this right now. But
was
they only
thinking-
test during the month. I'm sorry.
no.
I apologize for interrupting you. They typically only test during high recreation months. And I would say 2 years ago, we were getting a lot of follow-ups from them about a lot of tests. And then this last year, it was much less. I assumed it was a staffing problem. We don't know, honestly.
And I was thinking that it was weekly that they test.
And it might be.
Or is that maybe only once there's been a problem? I was thinking it was a lot more frequently than monthly, and I would hope that it was more frequently than monthly.
I think it probably is more frequently than monthly, and they require a certain number of tests before they'll lower your level, right? 2 tests in a row, so that's probably a weekly thing.
So maybe we can have that information when you bring this back with the results of the study.
Yep, we can do that.
Perfect. Okay, we've got, is David online?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey, before you start, David, I would just make a request from council. If you have any big or expansive questions about this financial report, maybe we could email them instead of, I think it's difficult to do online. And
Correct.
so if we have any in-depth questions, can we go ahead and email those out?
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
All right, I'll get started. I apologize that I can't be there in person. Thank you for allowing me to present remotely. This is the first time I've been able to be the voice from above, so I'm a little bit excited about that. So I just wanted to I prepared a financial report as of December 31st. So this will be half of the fiscal year completed, kind of where our revenues and expenditures are as of December 31st. So just keep that in mind. Anything that's happened since then in the last month and a half or so won't show up on this report. So first of all, starting in the general fund, and I hope you can see these up on the screen. I'm not able to see what you're looking at, but
we can see it.
In the general fund, revenues are looking strong. We're at 57%. A lot of that has to do with, as you know, property taxes are very cyclical. We get our main property tax distribution in December, which has been recorded, so that's reflective of that. And then our sales tax revenue, you'd be interested to know, is also coming in quite strong this year, once again. So last time I checked, I think it's through December, we're about 6% higher on average than we were last year in sales tax revenues. So that's great to see that that's continuing to come in strong. Expenditure-wise, right about where we would expect to be in the general fund at 48%. So no concerns there. Cemetery fund, our revenues are a little bit under the 50% threshold. If I remember right, last year we saw this same kind of trend for this time of the year, and it picked up in the spring and into the summer months, and we ended up being just fine. A large portion of this 42% is openings and closings, at least how they've been recorded. I didn't double check to make sure that they're all recorded in the right place. But as of December 31st, we were only at 12% for openings and closings. And then expenditures in the cemetery fund are showing up at 33%. A reason why that's showing kind of low, we do have in the budget a transfer of about $100,000 to the general fund. If you remember when we discussed the cemetery fund study, that transfer, depending on what direction the council ultimately wants to go with the cemetery fund and rates, we may spread that transfer out over a longer period. So we may not end up transferring that full $100,000 this year, but that's just something to be aware of. In the library fund, revenues at 78%, that is reflective of the property tax distribution. Because that is the main revenue source for the library fund. That's why when that comes in, that percentage jumps way up. Expenditure-wise, just a little bit over the 50% for the year. There are some I've discussed in the past, annual payments that we make early on in the year, such as insurance, our IT transfer, and indirect overhead to the general fund. Those have already been recorded. So that's one of the reasons why that expenditure is a little bit higher. Parks Tax Fund is looking great. We budgeted $180,000 for the Parks Tax and then $9,000 in interest. We've collected already 58% of that total. This does increase on a similar trend as sales tax. So it's expected that we're at about that same percentage. We haven't expended any of these funds. These were budgeted in this fiscal year for playground replacement. I don't know the timing of that project, but I'm assuming spring or early summer is when we'll start seeing some of that expenditure come out. Moving on to the next slide. Our Building and Development Fund. This, of course, is one we discussed in our budget retreat. It's one that we're keeping an eye on to ensure that we know the status of the fund balance and we know how to adapt as things change in the development within the city. So as expected, because of the slowing of development, specifically at Ridgeview, we are not issuing as many building permits this fiscal year as we did in the prior fiscal year. And we budgeted as such, but we're so far this year coming in even a little bit lower than that. So our building permits are at 45% and plan check fees also at 45% for the year. And then expenditures, the good news is we're also not expending as much as we budgeted so far the year. We're at 46%. So overall, we're doing about what we expected, just at a little bit lower of a dollar amount level. Debt service fund, we've discussed before, these the large debt service payments on our parks bond and on our building bond. The principal payments are made early in the fiscal year, so that's already been done. And then we have a second interest payment that comes out in the second part of the year, so that's not reflected in these numbers yet, but we have made all of the transfers from the various other funds into the debt service fund. That's why revenues are showing up at 100%. And 98% for expenditures, just because we do have a small amount of interest that we still need to pay for the year. The parks, roads, and building capital improvement funds look pretty interesting just because of timing of projects, and a lot of the revenues in these funds that we have budgeted are grant revenues, especially the MAG grant, which is above $5 million in the roads capital fund. Has not yet been recognized or received. So for both the Parks Capital and the Roads Capital Improvement Fund, you see the low revenue total there. That's mainly from impact fees that we've collected, interest that we've collected. That's what's making up the 11%. Once we receive grant funding, obviously that will increase that percentage. And then expenditure-wise in those capital funds, we've started to pick up a little bit in the parks. That's completing Highland Family Park Phase 2. Roads Capital Fund still haven't really taken off with those projects yet, but that will be forthcoming. And then the Building Capital Fund is our parks maintenance building that I believe is complete, if I remember correctly. That wasn't fully included in the budget. There's a portion of the fiscal year 25 budget that we need to roll over into fiscal year 26. And we've been waiting to kind of final all of the numbers for the project to know exactly how much of that budget will be needed. And that will be an adjustment that we request from the council at the year-end budget adjustments. I won't talk much about town center exaction. There's still a small amount of money left in that fund that is earning interest. So that's the only revenues that we've seen this year, is just the small amount of interest revenues. Getting into our utility enterprise funds, the sewer fund, we're at about 46% of our revenues. The sewer service charges is at about 48%, and impact fees so far are at about 26%. The impact fee number in the budgeting process was a bit hard to pin down, so that may be just imperfect budgeting on my part is why we're looking so low there, because there are other impact fee categories, utilities and otherwise, that we're at about the 45-ish% that you would probably expect based on the number of building permits that we've issued. But sewer specifically, I need to get a better handle on how to budget for those impact fees. With the service charges, I think one of the reasons we're seeing that a little bit lower than we would expect at the middle of the year, if you remember, we did our sewer fund rate study with LRB. Part of that rate study recommended incremental rate increases each year on January 1st of each year. After that study was completed, we took another close look at our fund balance in that fund and noted that the actual results of our year in our financial statements resulted in a higher fund balance than what was anticipated in the fund study. And so we felt that it was appropriate to not increase the rates this last January 1st. And so but we budgeted as if we were going to increase the rates. So that's maybe an explanation of why the sewer service charges is a little bit low. Expenditures in the sewer fund are at 37%. This is a kind of an ongoing thing. Every quarter, the final payment to TSSD of the quarter comes out of the next month. And I did not label this correctly. I apologize. The note on there still says that the TSSD December charge was paid in October, which doesn't make any sense. It should have said it was paid in January. So I apologize for that error. But That's why that percentage is a little bit low. The TSSD service charge is a large part of the expenditures out of this fund. So in January, that December payment would be made. Pressurized irrigation, no concerns with our revenue stream there. And then as far as expenditures, 73% looks quite high. There are some of those annual payments that we make earlier in the year. There also are some grant expenditures for our PI grant as we're finishing that project up that we have not recognized the revenues for yet. Storm sewer fund, no concerns here, 52% of revenues, which looks great. Expenditures as of now, 36%. And then, of course, we discussed the vac truck purchase that will be a budget adjustment later in the year. Culinary water fund, similar, no concerns with our revenues. We're at 52% and expenditures at 46%. And then on our final slide, the transportation fund, we're at 53% of our budgeted revenues. And because of the time of year, only at 7% of our expenditures, but that will pick up as the weather warms up. And then finally, last but not least, our internal service IT fund, where we make all of our new equipment purchases, such as computers and monitors and things like that. It's funded by transfers from all of the other funds, so that is at 100% for the year. And we've expended 73%. A large portion of that is from a server replacement that took place early in the year. So we're keeping our eye on that. I know Jay's tracking additional expenditures to see if we're going to be okay or if we need a budget adjustment at the end of the year for this fund as well. With that, that's my report. I will email this to the council along with the detail from December. I'll email that to you later tonight. With that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have, or as Mayor Bill said, you can email me and I'm happy to answer emails.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for tonight?
Not a question, but just an observation that it is very exciting to see this list and not have the open space fund on it.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, David, you do a great job and we really appreciate it. Get back to your family. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Jay, you've been waiting all this time and it's your turn.
Well, I'm going to turn it over to Rob.
Jay, I've been waiting all night.
You'll get plenty of me here in about
Okay.
2 minutes, so.
Disappointing.
Just two things to let you know. As some of you were in attendance, and as you know, this past week was the neighborhood meeting for the TI well project rezone. From that, a lot of questions were raised. They've actually reached out to me to ask to postpone their first meeting with the Planning Commission so they can start working on addressing some of those questions. So we will keep you posted on kind of the schedule going forward and what information we get from them. So the other thing I wanted to let you know is 10700 right over there. Their commercial development is coming in. So they have
Really?
2 buildings coming in. They're finishing up their site plan. It's under review currently. If you look on we've had the link on the agenda. If you click on that, you'll see all of our current projects, and you can see the 10700 commercial site plan on there. You won't see the site plan. The Apple Creek PD says that the site plan approval is handled by staff, but you will see the building architecture, which in the PD specifically says it comes to the council. So we don't have, I don't know what the buildings look like yet. They've only shown the footprint and then all the utilities and parking and all of that. So as soon as we get that architecture, we'll have it into the council for review as well.
Great.
So we're excited for that. That's all I have in terms of updates.
Perfect. I think that's all of our regular business, future meetings coming up. You can see the list there. And then we do have a work session to talk about land sale and encroachment policy, but let's take a literally 3-minute break before then. Literally 3 minutes.
We can set the public comment timer for 3 minutes.
It's a very hard to keep up. Aaron, did you see is there anything to say to that? All right, are we ready? Are we doing a presentation on this? There is a presentation. Let's do the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So for this work session, we want to talk about open space sales and maintenance agreement policies. As I've been going through encroachment efforts throughout the city to get unauthorized improvements on city property taken care of, a lot of questions have come up that staff would like feedback from and direction from council on. I'd like to start out first with property sales. We just recently, or we didn't, you recently approved a dollar amount per square foot for open space sales of orphan properties. But we don't have a procedure for fielding requests that we receive from residents who want to purchase a parcel, a bit of land next to their property. So that we have a few questions that we've come forward today to you to discuss. The first one, when someone comes to when someone's entertaining the idea of purchasing city land and they want to propose that to the city, do you want them to go to you or one of you? Do you want them to direct that to you as council, or do you want them to come to staff first?
Oh, okay. I didn't wonder if you were going to do it in order, but anyhow. So in the past, and I've been involved with these things for many years now, but in the past, as a council, the staff would bring us forth different neighborhoods and say, hey, we think these are some lots that could be surplused or sold. And we did that with Wimbledon. Okay, and there was a proposal a year or so ago on that where we let people buy a small amount. It happened at Viewpoint, and it's happened in North Canterbury, although we sold some property that we shouldn't have. But but that's what we were doing, I thought, was kind of neighborhood by neighborhood, because most of this property, not all of it, of course, but most of it has to do with the 18 open space neighborhoods. So my understanding was we were going to go a systematic review of those neighborhoods and just have staff recommend, hey, these are possibly some, and then we'd approve that by the council. Because if we didn't think it was land that could be sold, then that solves the problem right there, doesn't it? I mean,
we are going through neighborhood by neighborhood, but we regularly get requests from residents coming to us asking, hey, I live in Beacon Hills and I want to buy this parcel of land next to my property. Like do we tell them, hey, you're getting out of line? Or that doesn't sound right. You're out of line.
Oh, wow. You're not in the queue.
You know, we are going neighborhood by neighborhood, and we will get to your neighborhood eventually. But yeah, we've got at least 3 right now from various neighborhoods wanting to know if they can purchase city property. So there's some people who don't, they don't want to wait, or these are not coming up because we are proposing a land sale. They're coming because the residents themselves have approached the city independently to say, I want to buy this.
So, but have we looked at that neighborhood and saying what properties would make sense to sell, if any? I mean, we have to have some sort of consensus on that.
We have,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know when the last time if the city has done that with council, as far as if staff has, recommended, hey, based on this criteria, whether like we don't need it, we don't have infrastructure in this property, we could sell that if it comes up.
So you want criteria?
But yeah, that's
okay.
That kind of leads to the next question: is when the sale of property comes up, what information does the council need in order to determine if it is willing to sell a property?
So I guess what do we do when somebody is like, hey, I want to buy a property? Are we going to do it's not your neighborhood yet, so wait in line? But I mean, that could be years if we're doing neighborhood by neighborhood. Or Scott, tell me with your wisdom and what to do.
It seems like we had started a process, and I think it started with some of the most problematic neighborhoods that had open space orphan properties. It just seems like if we're getting requests from certain areas, maybe look at those and let's bring it to the council and say, hey, we think it's appropriate or not. So we've done that with North Canterbury, we've done it with Wimbledon, and we've done it with Viewpoint, but there are some neighborhoods like Caddy Lane, there's nothing really to surplus there.
Probably Windsor.
Or Windsor. We've actually done part of Windsor.
We've done some, but I think the other part hasn't been done.
But I'm just wondering if we ought to just look at some of the problematic areas and do those first as soon as we can.
Yeah.
But you need criteria, and I understand.
I thought we had criteria.
In 2020, it
We
was a while ago.
have
In
criteria.
2021, Todd Train put together a list of property that he said was saleable and not saleable, and he gave a reason for each one. And I thought that's what we had been going off of. I don't know if something, I mean, things have changed with open space since then, but I'm not sure if anything that was a reason to not sell has changed since then. But that's, I think, where we had left off.
I will say that when we get calls in, I do check, because we have kind of a list of approved, where we've approved the sale.
Right.
Let them know whether they're on it or not. Most of the time, they're not on it. And so we've been telling them, hey, we're going subdivision by subdivision. And they say, well, I want to do it now and not wait 5 years. What's the process? And we say, there is none. I mean, and then sometimes you'll get the email saying, hey, I want to buy this property. What can I do? And we just want to know how we should be handling those as staff and how much time staff should be spending on a resident who just calls in and says, there's this trail next to me, I want to buy part of it.
Is there a pattern? Are there certain neighborhoods or just random?
It's just random. Usually when someone's trying to build a pool or sell their lot.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question? Or two?
Yeah, I feel like they were just
Or a
having
comment?
discussion.
So I didn't know if
Yeah.
you wanted to go in order.
No,
or
go ahead.
If I'm out of order. So I've had like 3 requests in the last couple of weeks. And, you know, the criteria, I don't think we should really go neighborhood by neighborhood. I think sometimes people have the money and they want to act now. So maybe it's by date of application that you go, well, these people put it in. I went out with Doug a couple of times to actually look at the property, and it's always helpful for me to get the address and go look at the property and talk with the people, because I could look at a map and I understand it, but when you see it in person, it is really different. So for me, I would like the opportunity to actually, you know, go look at it and and we've stepped it off a little bit. So for me, that would be important, but I don't know if, I mean, I'm sure there are problem areas, you know, or maybe we need to put that in the newsletter that these properties are available. I still worry about how many people are reading that newsletter. I want them to read that newsletter that goes out, but for me, I don't know if there's a criteria. I mean, what is comfortable for staff is always my question back to you. I think that taking them random and then by date and just say, hey, you know, you're 5th down. We're getting to these one by one. You know, you're 5th in the queue type of thing, which people don't really want to hear, but we could take 5 at a time or whatever. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I would just say from my history remembering this, like, it's just so careful to not sell anything that we don't mean to sell and want to sell and that doesn't have any future ramifications. Like, I think sometimes it's easy to look at a parcel and think, well, that would make complete sense to sell it. But then I think sometimes when you look at other things or lots of things, right, when that ends up being a bad idea. So I think we just need to be super, super careful and make sure there's a benefit to Highland.
So I think that there has to be some criteria that guides you, that gives council direction. And some that I can think of off the top of my head are trails. We're going to preserve all our trails. And I think that includes future trails. Let's take the Todd Train famous fence area there. We could sell that property up to his fence to those neighbors, but that hamstrings future councils from being able to complete that trail all the way to Dry Creek. And right now, we know it's not feasible because there's a piece of property that we're not going to be able to buy. The seller doesn't want to sell it, but that doesn't mean 10 years from now it won't be available or maybe even be donated to complete that trail. So anything that has to do with a trail, we're not going to cut up any trails, and we're not going to cut up any future planned trails, even though we look at it and say, well, that's quite a ways out. Well, yeah, that's okay. So trails is part of it. The other part is when we sell, say, open space property, it still remains open space, is that right? Or can they build a building on it? They can.
It would, yeah, it would become an extension of their yard, and usually they're asking because they want to put a pool or something on it.
Right, and that starts getting into some, what I'm gonna call mush areas, because we don't wanna compromise our open space feel. And so when does it start to compromise our open space feel because we're selling property? So I think we've gotta give some guidance to the staff in terms of what our objectives are and how do we preserve open space. I think all of us have made commitment to maintain our open space culture in our city. But preserving trails, to me, is high on the list, that we in no way would ever give up a piece of property that takes away from future trails or certainly not current trails.
Yeah, that is helpful. What we're asking is if staff were to draw up a policy and procedure for the council to consider so that we have criteria when weighing the decision to sell open space, what is on that checklist that you want us to be able to tell you? Does it have water line? Does it have a sewer line running through it? Is it a future
Did we never
trailway?
establish criteria back when we talked about this a couple of years ago? I know we have clear criteria for encroachment. We didn't ever come up with criteria. That seems crazy to me that we wouldn't have come up with criteria.
No, we had a criteria list of essentially if somebody wants to apply to buy open space, they have to meet that certain criteria. And we had that in documentation. But I think the thing that we're missing, the element we're missing is what do we do when somebody comes and apply? And previously we said we're doing it neighborhood by neighborhood, but it seems like we've kind of, gone slowly on this, and it's a little frustrating to people. So we're deciding, instead of doing neighborhood by neighborhood, should we then take it at a case-by-case basis again, or should we then, or keep it neighborhood by neighborhood? Because we already have the criteria are already built out, exactly what they need to meet in order to make it available for sale. That's already done. We just need to decide, are we doing it case-by-case or neighborhood by neighborhood?
I think maybe there's a middle ground there that I think it doesn't make sense to do it just little property by little property. I think neighborhood at a time,
Yeah.
it may be a small area, but we can prioritize the ones that people have come in and asked about.
It can kind of be like a traffic toolbox where somebody comes in and we say, okay, this is on the priority list here. Yes, we will look at it.
But I agree with that, because it seems like if you have someone that makes a request,
Yeah.
that it would make sense to look in that particular neighborhood or that particular street and just say, would it make sense to surplus? Because if we surplus to one,
You'll probably
there'll be
do the
other
street.
interests. So why not look the whole street or the whole neighborhood or half the neighborhood or something and just say, does it make sense?
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like we have everything in place now because we have Todd Train set up what we should sell and what we shouldn't sell. We have the criteria of what meets that requirement, and then we can go there. It'll be a lot easier than what we were doing before of trying to figure out if it was sellable land. We already have that figured out.
If we sell an open space area, and we just feel like it still maintains the feel and it meets all the criteria, can we designate that as a right-of-way that we maintain? And by maintaining it, they can't build a structure on it, just like the
That's
right-of-way?
a maintenance agreement. So we also
A maintenance agreement,
Mhm.
yeah.
So we also have that criteria for maintenance agreements.
And that's pretty
And
strict.
people can come in and apply for maintenance agreement
Right,
as well.
because that to me solves the open space problem, because
But
we don't want to deter from that.
Yeah, and I see, like, I have an email from a resident who wanted to purchase the open space behind their home, and they go through the list of criteria that we had established and explain why they meet each of the criteria. So I feel like before we do anything, we should look at the criteria that we already have and see if they're still valid or not.
And for me personally, anything that we've already surplused and said we're going to sell, okay, we've already decided that. But one of the criteria that is high on my list is, can we guarantee that we're never going to want this property as a city? And I don't believe we can ever say yes to that. So I'm going to be very disinclined to sell any additional property.
I mean, we already have criteria. I guess we worked on this for quite a while of mapping it all out of what we could sell and what we can't sell. So I don't want to like revisit that and redo the whole thing again. I think it just comes down to, okay, are we going to do it like, you know, are we still doing the neighborhood by neighborhood, or are we going to say, yeah, people can email and say, hey, I want to buy it, and then we can look at it when they email.
I really agree with Kim on this because
Record that.
I see a funny. You're really funny. No, I was, how long was I on the Open Space Committee? 14 years? And it was just, there's some criteria already there. And if we own it, we're not sure and it doesn't belong to anybody else, then I agree with also Doug that you don't want to sell it. You say no. You keep it and just deal with the weeds and.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't believe that the criteria are valid, because
Enough.
there has been a significant change since the criteria were put in place, and that was, we discovered that we can believe that we own property that we don't, and sell property that's not ours.
I'm sensing that staff is not feeling like this is sufficient direction. Am I correct?
Well, part of there is no application to sell property. As some of you may remember, we used to have a neighborhood trail option disposal process, and then we got rid of that. Then we had this where we kind of went through a lot of properties, and I have an Excel spreadsheet somewhere that lists all of those. And then we have properties, we don't have an application process. And staff's just wondering, when someone calls in, do we spend staff time looking at that request and analyzing it under the criteria we have or other criteria that the council may want, or do we, punt it over to you to look at, or just what's?
So tell me if this is wrong and if I'm just looking at the wrong thing. So here's what I have down as the criteria. So, so this is the policy of Highland City to review and potentially surplus and dispose of any real public property owned by the city. Property should not be disposed of if it is part of a trail corridor, meaning the normal width of a trail and any required buffer areas, unless the council determines a trail is not used. Property should not be disposed of if it adds to the open space feel of an open space neighborhood. Property should not be disposed of if there are potential future city needs for this property. Property should not be disposed of if the transfer of property would result in an increase of irrigable acreage that would unduly strain or burden the city's pressurized irrigation system. Should not be disposed of if the transfer of property would result in the creation of orphan parcels. If the property adjacent to a trail is disposed of, the city must be able to maintain ownership of the trail within a 5-foot buffer. Property to be disposed of should otherwise have issues regarding access, connectivity, usability, and/or location that renders the parcels unusable for city purposes. The city council shall designate by separate resolution those specific properties that are surplus orphan properties that may be sold. So I feel like we've talked about this. Am I looking at the wrong thing?
That is the right thing. If that is what the council wants to use, then staff will use that. And we can incorporate that into.
What is that?
This is what Brittany and I worked on for, I would say, a couple years when we first started. and came up with this, 2021 came up with this criteria.
So,
So
and then I'm
is there-
just seeing all the emails that are coming in from people who then requested to purchase their property, listed out the criteria and then said why they did or didn't meet that they all claim to meet the criteria.
Yeah.
Could you email that criteria or the resolution number
That
that it's from?
resolution was R2026, adoption of the orphan property disposal property that you
What was the?
adopted on February 3rd as part of the new orphan parcel price calculation.
So, Jay, does staff feel like that policy that we currently have doesn't help you answer the questions when people come in? Because it feels like,
It allows, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Okay. It allows us to determine if the plot can be sold, but we don't have a procedure for when we get those questions. What do we do? How do we bring it to you for you to deliberate, or do we even do that? Do we do it
No,
neighborhood by neighborhood? Do we tell people, no, you can't, or
no.
can they
Can we just
they
do
kind of
this?
go to the front of the line by asking us rather than us asking them?
I think I don't know, this is what I prefer is, yes, people can email you and say, hey, I want to buy my property, and you say, okay, this is a criteria for it, let's see if you match the criteria, and then staff can determine if they match the criteria or not. And then it doesn't come to us because you guys have looked at the criteria and said it does meet it or it doesn't meet it.
My guess is if I'm reading Jay's mind correctly, which I may or may not be, he is thinking that all sounds good and fine, but only if then when people bring it back to council or complain or have further questions, if council sticks by what we've been told to do. Is that what your mind is thinking?
No, you're like 2 steps ahead of me. My brain's a little slow tonight.
Let me know when you catch up.
But I mean, I would say that if they don't like, if a resident doesn't like our response as staff, they will go to you instead.
And also, does it just take a phone call or an email from a resident to have me and our public works guys and our city engineer, spend 20 minutes each looking at a property?
So is there an application fee then?
That's part of the question is,
Yeah.
how do you want us to move these forward if you do?
Yeah. So could we do an application fee? They pay the fee, you analyze it based off the criteria, and then get back to them, and then if they want to appeal it?
Well, and shouldn't there be some sort of application form? Is there one?
Yeah.
There isn't, and that's what we're
No,
talking about
application
tonight.
form.
Yeah,
we would-
you need a form, but on the application fee, maybe it could be rather high, and then it goes, I don't know how to do this. It would go towards the purchase of the property, much like any
Well,
other.
I think the fee has to coincide with the time, the staff time.
Well,
So
right,
you
but
can't do
I-
a high fee if it doesn't coincide with the staff time on it.
I know.
It should correlate directly
It
to
doesn't
that
have
amount.
to, but I didn't get to quite finish on that. I am always glad to go out and do the legwork. I have time. So, I didn't get quite to finish that whole sentence, but I know that the money should go along with the staff time. I don't need to be paid for it.
I guess I would prefer staff to do the legwork, because this is them applying and staff applying the criteria.
I would still like to look at it, though.
Liz, did you want to look at every time there's an application, or did you want to only look at the ones where staff agrees they meet the criteria? And if we want to look at them all, then what's the point of us having criteria?
Yeah.
Well, again, I guess it goes back to the criteria. If it doesn't meet the criteria to sell it, but honestly, it goes back to maintenance. Or are you doing the criteria between selling, or, hey, we're not gonna sell it to you, but we'll give you this maintenance agreement? We have a maintenance agreement form,
We do.
so, but.
We have a form and a process for maintenance agreements. We do not have a form or a process
Right.
for for sales of land.
Well, the purpose in me going out looking at it, and maybe I misspoke when I said legwork, I don't want to be the judge on, yeah, you can have this, but it just helps me see it better. And I would rather go look at it before it becomes a problem, before some angry resident gives me an email that says, why can't I do this? I trust you guys a lot. So know that, first of all. But, you know, if you don't want us to look at it, and you can make that decision, I don't need to babysit it.
So it's easy as a council, we kind of always give more work to the staff, and we have a small staff. I guess I would kind of look towards a hybrid thing. I think there still makes sense to kind of going through the neighborhoods and just maybe picking a neighborhood every few months or every month or so and saying, hey, these are some areas that we could surplus, and you've already made the decision. And you can bring it to the council, and maybe we can let the citizens know, hey, okay. But at the same time, I think you need to have an application fee. I think you need to have a form. And when individual owners come in because they want to build a pool or something, I just like Mayor said, I think you need to go through the criteria. If they meet the criteria, then those individual ones may need to come to us, and we can make a determination. That's kind of, I think, a hybrid. But I would like us to go through the rest of the neighborhoods, because we tried, excuse me, we looked at some of the neighborhoods that were kind of problematic, and made decisions for that whole neighborhood. So I don't imagine you get a lot of applications from North Canterbury, because we've done that. Wilmington, we've done that. We've done it at North Point. And there's some of the open space neighborhoods that'll never be a problem that I've already mentioned. Windsor Meadows is kind of half done, if I remember correctly. And so I'm just wondering if maybe we need to look at Beacon Hills. Maybe look at Chambray Fields and stuff. Actually, we looked at Chambray Fields. That's one's been done as well. So
we've received 2 requests in the last month from Beacon Hills.
So
maybe that would be a good.
That'd be the next neighborhood I'd look at.
So, but I think we need to think, because Aaron, when we talked about if we have a request for staff, how are we going to make time for this? So I think we're saying that we want a methodical process, but we're also saying we've got these ones that are waiting in a queue. So I guess I would ask, what is the ability of staff, or what's the time that you have to work on this right now? Because I feel like you're asking us this question about what do you want us to do, but at the same time we hear that you're busy and you have a lot of things going on. So I'm just trying to understand what you're wanting from us so that we can appropriately ask from you.
We've already done
Just
Highland
to-
Hills too, so, yeah.
And just to piggyback on top of that, I think that if we're having an application, if there's any way that residents come in and make a request and staff looks into it, that we want to put a cap on how much time per week or per month or that we're willing to spend on that, and let people know that if you come in and do this, you'll go into the queue, but we only have so much staff time for analyzing this, because I don't want this to just eat up a bunch of staff time.
But aren't there like a lot of situations where you can just see an automatic no, or are those people not asking?
I mean, we can, there is a gentleman who was asking up in Beacon Hills about an area that I think at least at one point in time may have been a trail corridor. You can tell it's just a long rectangular piece, and he wants to either purchase a chunk of that or get a maintenance agreement on it. But it looks like now, because of things going on with Alpine, that maybe Alpine will have a trail through there, so maybe we could sell it, but we're not sure, and it's...
I think if we think it's a could, it's a no.
Okay. Yeah.
One additional
Use that with my kids.
criteria that comes to mind that I don't think was on that list, that we can't create islands of city property by selling. If there's a long corridor, we can't sell something in the middle and have this little island that we can't get to.
Yeah, that's
If-
in the criteria.
Is it?
If there is a large chunk, and by selling off city property, we reduce the size, that's okay. It seemed like there was a provision in there that we couldn't create any more orphan property. Is that saying that the entire thing has to be purchased, or it's a no-go?
Would it make sense to look at the requests that you have and hold them up against those criteria and have you say, as staff, if we use these criteria, we would deny these because of A, B, and C, or we would approve it because of A, B, and C, and let those kind of be test cases for what we think and how it would play out?
Yeah, we can bring some of the purchase requests to you over the next few months and see how they,
Or maybe just have a conversation, yeah.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, Mayor. So take the, the handful of emails we've got in our queue right now, rate them against the criteria, and then bring it back to you and say, here's what we're thinking. We understand the criteria is saying, do you agree with us? And if not, what changes do we need to make to the criteria?
So we need an application, and do you want like a policy type of
It's silly to
criteria?
have an application and a fee for a maintenance agreement and not to purchase a piece of property.
Purchasing.
and I could work up, I think I could work up a purchase agreement, very similar criteria, policy, very similar to the maintenance
maintenance
agreement
agreement,
policy.
yeah.
It'd be very similar to that. It would just
And
have,
let people know up front, if there's like an email that ChatGPT could write and that you could send them that said, we got your request, just know that these are the criteria that we're working against. Because if we didn't all remember what those criteria are, there's no way the residents are gonna know
Yeah.
what they are, and just let them know, like, we're working on it. These are the criteria that we've always had.
If we can get the
Helpful, thank you.
criteria, I mean, that criteria that the mayor read seemed complete to me. There wasn't one thing I could think of that I could add to it. Now, having said that, I'd like to get a copy, I'd like to study it, I'd like to ask ChatGPT what she thinks of it, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not saying I'm there, but right now, that criteria seem very complete to me.
I really
And-
hope
and if-
so.
But if it is complete the way it is it enough for you to make the decisions based on just that criteria that was read here? Is that enough? Do you need more from us?
we need what you want us to have, I guess, if that makes,
Well, that criteria at this point.
we have a list of criteria. It seems sufficient for many of you. We're okay with working off of that. And as we put it through its paces and analyze it, maybe some things will shake out. We're like, okay, we need to tweak that a little bit, and we can bring that back to you, if that's what I'm understanding.
Yeah, and then
I agree.
work on an application fee process.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
can I just interject one thing? I'm sorry.
No.
I'm interrupting. So it seems like if you have basically an application, you go through the criteria, they don't meet the criteria. And so what I'm hearing is some of these applications or questions about it is because they want to build a pool or some sort of structure. But you may have some requests just from people that just want to get rid of the weeds or just kind of clear up the area behind them.
Yeah.
So then we go into the issue, is it appropriate for a maintenance agreement? And if it is a maintenance agreement, then we have to emphasize it needs to be zero-scaped. And we saw some examples of that at the end of the summer, up in the Twin Bridges area, where some people had put maintenance agreement and they had it all zero-scaped, which I thought was very appropriate. And so, I think if they don't meet the criteria to purchase it, maybe maintenance agreement could be agreed to if they didn't just want to build a pool on the property.
And is there a way you could make that clear? Just say, if you don't qualify for the purchase of your open space, are you interested in a maintenance agreement? And if so?
Yeah, we could put a box they could check for that, or in our conversations with them, we always talk with them. It's not gonna, we help walk them through these processes, so we definitely would be able to have a conversation about that as an
Jay,
alternative.
One of my concerns, before I was elected, I walked several neighborhoods with some people, and it didn't qualify for whatever reason, and I don't recall, they didn't qualify to purchase it, and they didn't want to do a maintenance agreement. They put up a fence and I can take you to the area. I think it's in Wimbledon. One's in Wimbledon, can't remember where the other one's at, I have it written down. But they put up the fence, and now it's just solid
And it's
weeds.
taking forever.
So I think we need to consider, you know, if it doesn't qualify for purchase, how can we persuade them to do a maintenance agreement so it's not a mess? I mean, because a lot of these people are putting up fences, and then they have all of that behind them, and it looks, well, it's not just a look, it's bad. Does that make sense to you?
It's hard to address all of that because so much of our trails and
It's
our open
really
space
hard.
was designed to be natural vegetation,
Yeah, but it's
i.e.
so hard.
weeds.
We do get some of our maintenance agreements or requests that people want to take care of that strip beyond their property, and sometimes it's fenced, sometimes it's not.
And we have rules about how much of it can be grass because that area wasn't planned to be watered.
Broader.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about, xeriscaping.
Yep.
I think I have everything I need regarding property sales.
And with regard to the criteria,
Yes.
I am perfectly okay with the criteria that we have.
Yeah. I am-
Personally, I don't think anything is ever going to meet those criteria, but I think I am a minority of one on that point.
Brittany, on some of this, what I'm trying to get across, and I'm maybe not doing a very good job of it, but, so the xeriscaping becomes high weeds, which we end up mowing down. So, just so you understand where I'm coming from. I'm not saying don't do it, I mean, what we have for criteria is fine. It's just, eventually, we're gonna get people back in here in a couple more years, and we're gonna go the rounds again. And if I had a nickel for every minute I've spent on open space,
I'll give you a nickel for every dime you have.
You're cute, you're cute. Is this in payback for the don't drive the truck thing?
No, we don't roll that way.
No, I just, if I had a nickel for every moment stand corrected, for every moment I have spent on open space, I'd be rich.
Yep.
So.
No, it's a lot.
Before Jay moves to maintenance agreements, to address Mayor Bill's earlier question about kind of time and priority of staff. Good news, we're done with general plan. Bad news, we're headed into budget season. So what I'm hearing from the council is you're not super eager about selling things. You feel like we've kind of got a process. We need to refine some things. So it's something we'll work on, but in terms of priority, it will be up there, but not, budget, of course, takes priority. Am I hearing that correctly from a priority standpoint from the council? Okay.
That works for me.
I want to say I'm not opposed to selling anything as much as Doug is. I'm on the other side of that spectrum.
Okay.
Because from my view, and Scott is the one that taught me this, it's a win-win. I mean, we've got somebody maintaining an area that we can't maintain.
Right.
That said, I wish our open space looked like the developer's concept plan when we approved it for open space, because it doesn't quite look like that. It looks pretty rough, but it is still open space. And so I do want to make sure, and that's why I like the language that was spoken here in that criteria that the mayor read. It seems like it covers the concern that it does not change the nature of our open space in that particular neighborhood. And I'm thinking of, say, an area that's got 100 feet between properties, and we know there's going to be a 20-foot for trail. We can look at that 80 feet, but
Before you
maybe
get
a
on both
maintenance
sides.
agreement that keeps it open space is favorable to actually selling it where we don't have any control once it's sold. So I think those kinds of things, I really liked that criteria. She read it, I'm thinking, yeah, check that, check that, check that. It covered everything that I had in top of mind. And then having said that, I would like to read it more thoroughly and study it out. And maybe give some input, but right at this point, I'm in favor of that particular document.
I will text out a link to that resolution.
I can send that document out for the council to review after the meeting.
Or I I can just text out a link to the resolution.
Yeah.
If that.
Careful with your texting.
Okay, if we can move on to maintenance agreements. As I've been going over maintenance agreements, a lot of different questions have come up, and so we just wanted to get some clarification from council on these as well. The first question is, when a maintenance agreement associated with a property, does that transfer ownership when a resident moves?
No.
Is the question, does it or should it?
No.
Because if the question is, does it, then the answer is yes. Because it runs with the land. That's what the.
No.
Is that what
currently
the
is. No.
council wants?
What does it say in the maintenance agreement?
It probably doesn't.
Sounds like a Rob question.
I read it recently because someone came to us who was selling, and I couldn't make a definitive.
The problem is then people sell it and people don't know there's a maintenance agreement that expires and they don't know what's in it, and then they said, well, it was just like this when we got it.
That does happen. This came up because the maintenance agreement had been recorded with Utah County, and so it came up during a record search pending the sale of the property.
And we require it to be recorded.
Yes, we do. So if we are recording these, then it will come up but there is still always well, I didn't know.
Well, if it comes up with the title search, it just seems to me that it would make sense for the new owner to then go ahead and set up the maintenance agreement. Do you know what I mean? So that we don't have a maintenance agreement, because they may not be aware that in a year it expires, although I think the city staff lets them know. But I don't know, I think if it changed ownership, they should reestablish the maintenance agreement. What do you think? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
I just think for clarity reasons and understanding of the maintenance agreement and what they're signing, then it should not transfer with ownership, that they should have to re-sign it.
Just re-sign it. so
Even
they're
though
right.
it's recorded. If
Yeah,
it's
but if it's
recorded,
recorded, have they seen the actual agreement and what it entails, what they can and can't do? I think that's the hardest thing, is they're like, oh, there's a maintenance agreement. But then they go and build a pool on it, and we're like, well, I agreed to maintain it, and I put a pool on to maintain the area. So they just don't know the criteria.
Well, they
the
wouldn't
agreement.
own it if it's a
But
maintenance agreement.
it is the actual agreement itself that gets recorded against the property, yes? So the full text.
So they will be
is
able
there.
to see it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And again, I'm not arguing about how it should be. Just
Yeah.
talking about the way it is based on, is currently based on the
Yeah,
policy.
My question is, how does this council want it to be?
Okay.
Irrespective of what it is now, do you think it's working well? Do you even know? Is this anything you've thought of, or how would you like us to handle it going forward?
From the number of items that I have gotten in my email, I don't think it's working well. But that being said, I mean,
Items you've got in your email regarding transfer of the maintenance agreement to
well.
a property
all
that's
of it,
been
all
sold?
of it, all
That's
of
what we're
it,
talking
all of it,
about
Jay,
right
and I'm
now.
not blaming anybody. I'm not, it's just, this is kind of the nature of the beast. Clearly,
Okay.
I'll wait till you see the agreement. I don't,
Okay, what do you guys think? Transfer or no?
I actually think that it needs to run with the land.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because if it does, then it's recorded, and when you buy the land, you can see that that's in place. If it doesn't, then there's no reason for us to record it with the property.
Because that's
And that means that
the
when somebody
property
comes in
owner.
and buys it, they just see that, look, they've been irrigating and landscaping this area, and it would be much easier to me not to understand that that's actually not my property.
That makes sense, because
Yes,
then it'd be
that-
between property owner and Highland instead of landowner. Okay.
Based on the feedback that I've received from residents as I've been enforcing encroachment, as a lot of them say, oh, my realtor told me that was my land, that was my property, or that I could do whatever I want with. I could put a trampoline in the ground, or use it as
Right.
my own. And so,
But then you
if
can
it-
go back and say, but did you look at the title when you purchased the property and the maintenance agreement as part of it?
So
yeah.
the onus really rests on the buyer, but at the same time,
it is a buyer
when I bought
first.
my house in Highland 37 years ago, my realtor didn't tell me that there were the big pipelines for the Central Utah Water Project that run under the back of my yard. And I came to and I said, what are these? No one had told me about that. And they said, oh yeah, there's 10 million gallons of water that run under the back of your property every day. So, I think sometimes when people are purchasing or that, they may not pick up on that. I think it needs to be recorded, like Doug's saying. I agree with everything he's saying there, but I think the new owner really needs to come in and renew the maintenance agreement so they don't get a surprise 6 months later or a year later. That's my personal opinion.
So that we would discuss the nature of a maintenance agreement with them to help them make sure they understand what they're...
Understand what it is.
What it is, okay.
That it's a maintenance agreement, but you don't own it, and people are misled all the time.
Yeah.
But how do you do that to make that follow? I mean, you're still going to record that? Or, no, I'm a little confused, I'm sorry. You're going to record the maintenance agreement? Okay.
The maintenance agreement,
Okay.
as of right now, the policy is that we record it with the county.
maintenance agreement, okay.
And so it will come up with documents when things start moving with the sale of the property. And so it's just a matter of are we able to get these people, get in contact with them? And this just came up because someone was doing their due diligence and contacted the city about it. Usually we don't know, this is the first time I've heard of this in 3 years. So.
Okay, so what did we decide, transfer or no?
I believe it transfers. I don't want to add a bunch of work to the staff that every time this property is
then they have
sold,
to redo it.
they've got to revisit this, and it puts the burden on us. I think if it's recorded and the title search is going to find that, if they don't go through everything and read every page, which actually, quite honestly, I don't, but I should. If they don't, that's buyer beware on them. The due diligence is on the buyer's plate. And when they sign the document, they're signing that maintenance agreement is part of the title search that was done. They're made aware of it, and I don't want to add any work to the staff on every sale that's made in Highland, where we have a maintenance agreement.
I agree with that.
I agree.
Okay,
I think
are we
we've
good
got
with that
guidance there.
question?
Thank you.
Let's go ahead.
All right.
Next question is, how do we work with extensive and expensive encroachment? For example, when a resident builds retaining walls and or removes trees or other vegetation that they should not have. And I want to take you on a walk through Highland where you can see some of the more egregious offenders.
No, they have to restore it back to its
This
natural
one here,
state.
so
I don't know why
everything
that's a question.
where you can
They got to take it up.
just, I mean,
I'm not
okay.
laughing at you. I'm laughing with you.
So
I'm laughing with you.
Everything here,
Yep.
this is their property, but you can see they've got a swimming pool here with a retaining wall that's on city property.
Yeah, they need to take that out.
Okay.
The one
That's why I asked the
concern-
prosecutor if he was ready for encroachment, because it's
We
this
didn't-
kind of thing that I really think we need to get serious about.
That's a liability.
If we allow this, how could we go to anyone else and not allow what they want, no matter how minor it is? This being major, that's a problem for the owner. That's not our problem.
The one concern I have in that regard, Chris, can we safely just across the board say that if you put in a retaining wall, you have to remove it? Or I mean, because there's going to be, are we going to, can we enforce that you have to do appropriate soil compaction, you have to do, because we run into a potential problem on one side of the property line or the other when we remove that, I would think.
Yeah, you would have to do whatever remediation would need to happen to have that retaining wall removed. So it would have to be included as part of the requirement.
So Jay, go back, like the one that's up there right now, what they have planted trees, or are those
They
is that-
planted these trees here. Basically what they did is they built a retaining wall and put trees on it
Oh,
so
there
that they
is a
could
retaining
extend
wall.
their usable yard all the way to here and put the retaining wall on the city's property right here, rather than building a retaining wall starting on
Here.
their property and having their usable area
Oh,
going to
geez.
say here. That happens so often.
Can you tell us which areas this is, or would you prefer not?
This one is in North Canterbury,
Okay.
Canterbury North.
Dear.
Ugh.
Well, so here's the thing. We had this issue before up in Beacon Hills with the sports court, and we told them that they had to restore it back to its natural vegetation state. And so if we start allowing it an exception for properties, then that's going to be our precedent, and we'll have to allow it on all properties. So I just think that you have to be firm and say, this is your property, this is our property. If that was my backyard, I would tell them to take it out. You just encroached on my backyard.
And once they encroach, I'm sorry to ask this question. I'm really not sorry, but, so like the one that's up right now, they can't purchase that. When they've encroached, they can't go ahead and purchase that from the city.
That's why I bring this question forward, because I don't want to I don't want to tell this person, you've got to get off, and then I bring it to the council, and they're like, actually, why don't we just let them buy it?
Yeah.
Well,
That's
I don't
happened
know.
before, when I've brought a
Well, what does the
maintenance
code
agreement,
say?
and they've said, and council members have instead said, why don't we just let them buy it?
Well,
And
I mean, then you would go
so-
to the criteria. If they say, well, why can't we just buy it? Then you go to the criteria and say, okay, do you meet the criteria to buy it, or do you not meet the criteria to buy it?
Do these properties, so all of these properties you're showing has some kind of retaining wall, is what I'm looking at?
Not
Is that
necessarily all of
not
them.
all
These are
of-
just expensive improvements that people have put on city property. Like, if they have to take this out, this guy's swimming pool is gone.
Scott?
So I guess the question I have on this particular one, that swimming pool, did they get a building permit? Don't you need a building permit?
I know we talked about this when they did get a building permit for the swimming pool, but they extended the deck area, and that was not part of the plan, if I remember this right.
That was
And-
not part of the plan. Is
And
that
I understand people want to be real strict on this, but like on this one, is there a little bit of wiggle room, compromise? I
That's-
mean, all
Well,
that
so-
area behind that they've landscaped, that needs to, oh my gosh.
Isn't,
So
Oh, that would
Liz,
work.
one of the questions that we talked about last time
All that area
was
needs
if
to
we
go.
just let people purchase it, then it's just like if you have a lot of money and you made an expensive improvement, then you can just buy it and it's fine.
well, if they, what happens though if they meet the criteria of, yes, this is purchasable land? Would you let them purchase it since they already encroached?
Well, is this, I mean, are there any pipes through here, water rights?
I don't know. I mean, we'd have to do a
Criteria
deep
that-
dive
That's in
on
the
this.
criteria.
In the hypothetical question, the answer is no.
This is
Right.
up at the top of
Yes, Kim?
Hills.
I mean, hypothetically, no,
No.
there aren't. Would you?
It doesn't belong to fiber optics, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out. That looks,
Well, the criteria covered that. So like Kim is saying, if it meets the criteria, I think we can entertain, which is obviously a far better option for the owner. But it's got to meet that criteria. And I don't want to start making exceptions because it's, going to cost $200,000. Well, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have built it. So
So this section here is a trail corridor.
that is, and
This
they
is the
ripped
top
out
at-
trees
This is
to
up
put
by,
the,
we've got the water tank is like right here.
and Jay, they ripped out trees, they ripped out the scrub oak right there to put that grass, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, so then they would need to restore all that. But I mean, I'm saying for example, their pool, if they said, okay, well, can I just buy this portion? Are we
Which
gonna say,
portion, Kim, I'm sorry?
where the green line is?
property line?
Like the 5 foot from the trail corridor, or whatever
Yeah.
the rules would have said.
if it meets the criteria.
So you're saying, this is, ooh, I get red.
Oh, yeah, you're good, yeah. Can they buy that portion?
Can
Oh,
they buy
my
that portion?
gosh.
So this raises a
Not
good
record that.
question with those criteria, because the first one on that list, I believe, is adds to the open space feel of the neighborhood. This is Beacon Hills, so this is right north side, and that's the big Beacon Hills kind of natural corridor.
Yeah.
I don't know how to rate that as staff. At some point, somewhere in there is, if you cut it all out, sure, it's all gone. If we move it in 5 feet, it still feels just as open as it did before to me. How would the council approach something like this? Would you say, now that they've cut out the scrub oak, it doesn't really add to that kind of natural corridor feel, or it does?
I mean, maybe on these huge ones like this, it's going to have to be a conversation. I mean, I agree with Kim and Ron that you don't want to compromise, right? But if you have criteria that are at all subjective, then that's what happens. So you either have to have criteria that are completely objective, or you have to understand there's a little bit of subjectiveness. And right now there's a little subjectiveness in the criteria.
Have these people already been told they are encroachment?
No, Beacon Hills, I mean, I'm sure they know, but Beacon Hills is the
city.
next place that we are going to hit with formal letters letting them know that they need to vacate their area. But this is, I brought up on Utah County parcel maps, this is where that is. So you can see this is a trail corridor up here. We have another person who wants to purchase some land up here in this little section, which was intended to be a trail corridor, but it looks like maybe Alpine's got that handled instead. So, but that's the maybe. So maybe no. Maybe no. No.
But we own to the second yellow line, correct?
And Highland border, yeah.
A Highland border, right there.
I think if the only thing that is questionable about meeting the criteria is the open space feel and that language that's in there, I think that does require a discussion. It requires a conversation, and maybe even something, I mean, something this big, maybe we as a council go out and visit it, and then make a decision, if that's the only thing. But if there's other things like utilities in there or anything else, then it's a hard no.
So is it a thing when we send out the encroachment letters on this to say, if you'd like to try to apply for a maintenance agreement, here's the process. If you'd like to apply to purchase it, here's the process. You're not guaranteed either of these things, but you can try.
But we can probably like review them as staff ahead of time and say, your property is available, what's the right word? Meets the criteria for a maintenance agreement, or meets the criteria for selling, and here's the application. Like, I remember thinking we would try to do that, right, on some of ours.
Yeah, I would review them. I will not offer a maintenance agreement to someone who doesn't qualify for one. That seems mean.
Yep.
So I would not do that. This house in question here, sorry, gotta get the right mouse. This person, one of the main criteria we look at is, what is the benefit to the city by you encroaching? I don't see one. I don't see a benefit to the public at large with this here. In fact, they're actually they're preventing the city from being able to build a trail through here by putting extending their driveway up there and so forth. So
that's
this
their
person,
driveway,
I
and
don't
that-
think would qualify for a maintenance agreement. There might be a very small amount of wiggle room for them to purchase some, but is that a policy that the council wants to have, is that residents can purchase after they've built on something? We as staff were batting around the idea, and I don't know how serious it was. Do they have to purchase it at 3 times the cost per square foot, or something?
I think if I've heard, so long as they meet the criteria to sell, then they're able to.
Or you could sell just the portion that would still keep them within meeting the criteria.
Within the
so within the
criteria.
5 feet of the trailer.
But anything else.
But I would be fine with them paying.
Anything else, get off. And if you don't want to buy it, get off.
I would be inclined, if there is encroachment in place, before we're going to give somebody a maintenance agreement or sell them property, that we charge them an encroachment fee.
I would agree with Doug on that.
Yes.
So let me ask on this one, I'm a little confused. The trail runs along here, or does the trail run down here?
It's along the top.
It's a planned corridor, so there is no trail, and that would kind of depend on slope and how we want to put the trail through there. I think the goal would be to run it somewhere towards the west to get up into the ravine and kind of go up towards Angels Gate and south towards Beacon Hills Park.
So it go up this way?
Yeah, go west and then up. But, I mean, part of it is, it might have been able to go through there once, when
Yep.
there were trees, and it would have been a more like natural field to walk through it, and we've lost that option right now.
I think we just have to be careful to not do anything that precludes us doing something else later, that takes away our options. Just keep our options open as much as we can.
Okay.
Chris?
It's fun.
I guess maybe this is both a Chris and a Rob question. This particular image, if the rock wall that we see to the upper left there is a retaining wall that has been used to build up the land for the purpose of putting in the pool. If we tell them we have to remove it, what does that mean? I mean, can we say you have to remove that, and because of that, your pool is no longer in code? Or does that mean that we're just going to have a pool slide into our property at some point?
One thing I've learned from Jason, and what he always says, is anything is buildable if you have enough money. There's always ways to engineer something and to redo it. It just might be incredibly expensive. On this one, I don't know.
Yeah, they might be able to put in like a foundation wall right along the property line that would be able to save the pool. But without going out there and looking, I don't know that.
But if their solution was simply to remove the retaining wall, put our portion of the property back as it is, and trust that their pool is going to stay where it is there anything we can do about that? I mean, we know it's not going to stay there if...
But here's the thing, when they got the pool permit, in order to get the pool permit, they had to know their property line. And then they had to be able to submit a pool permit that conformed to those lines. So they had to have been able to know that they could put in a pool within the property lines and have it approved.
Or they wouldn't have gotten a permit.
Wouldn't have gotten it approved.
But who approved the final? I mean, didn't we have to go in and say,
Yeah, the city.
yeah, it's okay? I mean,
Well,
We
the
have a large
pool's in the
number of
property
people who
line, it's
pull
the stuff
permits,
around
but
it.
never actually get them closed out. I'm not saying this is the case, but it happened personally with my neighbor. They pulled a permit that conformed with city ordinance and then built something different.
well, this goes back to that bond thing. Can't get the bond released until you release the final permit.
So they wouldn't get their bond back until they
Well,
finished out their.
I mean, there wouldn't be any performance or warranty assurance in this case, because it's just building a single residential.
What questions do you still need answered from us?
It sounds like as far as these expensive and extensive improvements go, we can go full steam ahead on get it off the land. If they want to, if they say, well, then let me buy what I've done, what I've built, we could look at it based on the criteria
Yeah.
and make a determination there. Otherwise, it's sorry. If that is the case, then one last thing. When we brought some maintenance agreements to you a few months ago, it seemed like there was some interest.
Just real quick on that last point. The current policy, I believe, says that if you want to apply for a maintenance agreement, after we alert you to the encroachment and tell you to stop, you have to do it within 30 days. I think we need to have that same thing with it. If you want to buy, you need to approach us within 30 days, because otherwise it just keeps dragging out forever.
Do you have policy now that dictates how soon something has to be corrected, remediated?
We do.
Okay.
We send out at least 2 notices, usually giving them a deadline of 30 days. It depends on the time of year. Notices that we sent out later last summer, we said, okay, if you can get this done and plant seed during the proper time of the year, there's just factors that go into. I am perfectly willing to work with anybody who gets back to me and says, okay, sorry, my realtor apparently lied to me. it happens a lot.
That would never happen.
Okay.
So yeah, I work with, I can work with deadlines. I can help people get into compliance if they just will work with me.
So we have a quick closed session after this, so let's move on to these couple last questions real quick.
So yeah, when I brought some maintenance agreements to the council a few months ago, it seemed like there was some a desire to maybe change some of the current policy, and so I just wanted to see if that seemed like curbing, which was not currently allowed, was something that the council wanted to take off of the not allowed list.
Let's go through that real quick just for fun. Kim, yes or no on allowing curbing?
No.
Scott?
Yes.
Doug?
Depends on how you define curbing.
Ron?
No.
Liz? Will you please define curbing?
I mean, usually
No, when you see it.
it would.
This is it.
I can't tell you what it is, but I know when I see it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's starting to sound like
That's
the
he's
Supreme
quoting
Court.
the Supreme Court.
This sort of stuff.
Is a mow-strip curbing?
Is what?
Is a mow-strip curbing?
No.
A curbing, I'm saying, is cement.
Yeah.
Like curb and gutter.
Yeah, the cement border between your flower beds and your grass is usually is what I and my wife refer to as curbing.
So let me.
She is an attorney. She
So
knows the
so
legal
it
definition.
ends their property. You're putting a curb where it ends their property.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
We're talking about on a maintenance agreement. So
I know.
So I did some landscaping when I'm restoring my grandparents' home, and we put in some curbing, and it's just a machine that lays it. It's shallow. It's easily taken out, but it kind of separates what you're trying to do from, the conservation area and stuff. And for weeding purpose and that, I think it's like a mow strip and things, and that's easily removed. Now, if you're putting something real permanent, I'm totally against that. But, these shallow curbings that you just put, they're easily taken out.
I just feel like it establishes this is my property now and nobody else's. And I feel like with maintenance agreements, it's saying I'm maintaining it, but other people can still use this property because it's public property.
But imagine the case where somebody has 7,500 square feet that they have a maintenance agreement on. So they can only put 2,500 square feet of lawn in it. So putting a strip like that between the lawn section and the xeriscaped section to help keep the lawn in check and keep the lawn from encroaching seems like a reasonable thing to me. That doesn't feel like it's establishing any more than a line between grass and xeriscape would.
Liz, what do you think, Liz?
In other words, it's just an end to their property. You're distinguishing because this is the end of your property on a curb.
It can be used as that, yes.
But then this is also
On a maintenance agreement.
this right here is saying I'm making this also now all my property.
But is this
by putting it on the end? Well, if they had this as a maintenance agreement, I mean, I'm fine with the curb being around the end of their property. That's on their property. But when I'm saying you're putting curbing on Highland City property and saying this is my property also, now it's not open space.
I don't think so, but honestly, I need to look at more of these, I think.
As the policy stands right now, I included this slide because none of these would be allowed.
To have
But if you removed curbing from the list, this one and maybe even this one could be allowed, but these definitely not. They've got fire
Are those,
pits,
those are
trampolines, all
retaining
sorts of
walls?
This is right here, but this is on their property. This right here
Is not.
It's hard to tell.
But those are
if that's just
retaining walls,
rock.
those aren't, it's just not a curb.
I think the policy right now just flatly prohibits curbing.
As it
You
should.
could modify it to not prohibit it, but you'd still have to review the plan that the applicant comes
The
up
problem is, no matter how you cut it, you are redefining a property line here. You're literally looking like that's all part of that same property, and it's not. So by putting that, allowing curbing on any of our open space areas, it's no longer open space. It's private property to the average person looking at that.
If you're
But I've
walking
been
back
saying-
behind there, it feels like it's not open to you to
Exactly.
walk back there.
It
feels like it's
violates
someone
our open
else's.
space, black and white to me.
And if there is
That's what
no
I've been saying.
concrete boundary there, it doesn't look like?
No, if they didn't encroach and had all the shrub go all the way up to the red line, that's what it's supposed to be.
But a maintenance agreement would allow this, except for that little strip of concrete
Well, it
on
wouldn't
the
have allowed
south.
them to take out the scrub oak, probably. that
Well,
they
that's
took out.
assuming we have a maintenance agreement. That's a case-by-case basis.
But that's what we're talking about, because that's where the curbing comes in.
Yeah, again, to me, it redefines the boundary. If
Does
we
me
allow
too.
curbing on our space, it redefines
Yeah.
the boundary and it takes away from the whole open space feel.
It
So
looks
no-
like
no,
we're
not
suited
on a-
to.
Not on a maintenance agreement. If they purchase it, so, can I ask a couple other questions?
Yeah, no, of course.
So, on this one property, they've got a pergola, and it looks like a fire pit underneath that pergola. I can't tell for sure.
That's all illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all illegal.
Yeah.
And then what, do you know what is under those trees? That did they plant those, or they just ripped some of the trees out and not those? Do you know?
If it's not scrub oak, they probably planted
They
them.
planted them, but you don't know what's
Rest
under
of the-
those trees. It doesn't look like scrub oak to me either.
We can use Google Maps to go back and see or Google Earth to go back and look at what.
And Liz, if you need more
trees look
time
like.
to think about this, or go on a drive.
Okay, and I understand. I'm just thinking and I'm processing. If I'm slow, that's
No, you're
life.
good.
But on a maintenance agreement, no. And you're calling like a rock wall curbing. Is that correct?
Well, it's hard to tell.
Technically,
It's
that
hard to
falls in the
tell.
definition of curbing if a mow strip does.
It's
But
becoming
yes.
apparent that I might need glasses. But it sounds like, it came up that during a different discussion that curbing may be okay. It sounds like it's not. So I will proceed. I just didn't want to start enforcing encroachment if this was going to change at all. So I just wanted to clear this up. That's all I have tonight. I think you've
Perfect.
adequately answered all of my questions and other staff questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That was fun, wasn't it?
It was
It
great.
was.
Okay.
Okay, so
Oh.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to closed meeting. Okay. Okay. I move that the Highland City Council recess the regular city council meeting to convene in a closed meeting in the executive conference room to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation. We're going
Second.
to keep this short.
Yep. Thank you.
Roll call.
We need a roll call vote. Kim?
Aye.
Dr.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you,
in closed
Brittany. Who was
session.
the second on that motion?
That was